Welcome to Pensire Basketball Live, and that was a very, very competitive, clutch, fun loss to the Brooklyn Nets without Dennis Schroder, without Cam Thomas, while Nick Claxton got kicked out of the game. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Is this right around the time when the Toronto Raptors fan base finds something to complain about and complains about Scottie Barnes, who just came back from an injury that he wasn't supposed to be back for a couple of games, and then hones in on Scottie's not a clutch player. Scottie's not able to score in the clutch. Scottie's not able to be a go-to scorer. Oh my God, we got to build around RJ. We got to build around Ochai. We got to build around Grady. Maybe we should build around Bruno Fernando. Maybe some of y'all want to build around Davion Mitchell. Oh my God. The lack of vision that some people exhibit in their day-to-day lives must be how they watch sports. I, for one, do not care. I told y'all before the season started, I don't care. Wins, losses don't matter to me. The Toronto Raptors started, definitely their youngest starting lineup ever. There were some beautiful moments of very good basketball. There were some abysmal moments of terrible basketball, and the Nets did not really play that well. Cameron Johnson, on the other hand, did play well. And as someone who has been pushing for the Raptors should trade for Cam Johnson is amazing since the offseason. I, for one, feel pretty vindicated that I do know a couple things about basketball and know what I'm talking about when I said Cam Johnson is actually awesome. But man, I'm watching this chat right now, and it makes me think I got two doors that I can go down. Door number one, I try to convince the people in this chat who are honestly crazy. Or door number two, I laugh it off and have a good night. I'm going to choose to have a good night. So let's talk about this game without the background noise. Okay. I mean, this is what you want. You want competitive losses. You got a competitive loss. The Toronto Raptors were up, and then they weren't. And if you think that lineups didn't play a part into this, you're absolutely nuts. Take a look at the win probability. This is the Toronto Raptors. They were supposed to win this game for the most of the second half, and then the fourth quarter comes, and right around the 4-minute mark. Now, you can choose to view one of two things. Actually, let me look at the last possible moment the Raptors were favored to win this game. 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Scottie Barnes makes a 6-foot pull-up jump shot. Raptors up 90-88. At which point, the Toronto Raptors pull the plug on this game and end up losing by, it was like they lost by 9, but Kelly Olynyk makes the last second layup. Now, again, if you're someone struggling for meaning, search for meaning. Viktor Frankl. Maybe some of you are like Viktor Frankl out here. If you're struggling for meaning, you look at a game like this and you say, oh my God, Rob, the future is doomed. The Toronto Raptors are terrible. Oh my God. Scottie Barnes taking 11 shots in 36 minutes coming off of an injury. He's terrible. 16 points. He can't make a shot. Blah, 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 blah. He had 3 turnovers. Oh my goodness. You can always gauge how dialed in Scottie is to a game with his rebounds. This is not the Scottie Barnes you saw against the Celtics. This is not the Scottie Barnes you saw against the Nuggets. Okay. And if you think that the Raptors are trying to get wins right now, you really might be out. Like, you're on a different planet. There's no communicating with you, and there's just no point. Ochai Agbaji had a good game. Respect it, right? There were some really good moments for him. Right. Grady Dick had some very big moments, including a couple of dunks. Grady hasn't had a lot of dunks in his Raptors history. He had a lot of dunks in high school, but he had some good moments. Kelly Olynyk had some very good moments playmaking. Not some great moments defensively, a lot of fouls. But overall, I really like that point center look that Kelly Olynyk can bring. Chris Boucher did not have a great game. Some very ill-timed, very crazy shot attempts, including that pull-up 3 from, what was it, like 27, 28 feet. That was kind of crazy. Jamison Battle, very serviceable. Jamal Shead, very huge layup. Game kind of breaking apart, game on the line in a sense. And Jamal Shead just, he got 26 minutes off the bench tonight in place of Davion Mitchell. So if you're counting, the Raptors were without Davion Mitchell. The Raptors were without Jakob Poeltl. The Raptors without Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. So basically they were without their team. And Scottie Barnes played with a bunch of rookies. Am I lying? A bunch of rookies, Chris Boucher and Kelly Olynyk. Ochai Agbaji. And you're expecting to beat a team of actual NBA professionals? Dorian Finney-Smith is a legit pro. Cameron Johnson is a bucket who is currently exhibiting himself to be traded, and the Nets are very wise to this. Ben Simmons, while you may assume Ben Simmons is trash, Ben Simmons has been anything but trash this year, and he is actually in a contract year himself. There's a lot on the line for him. Noah Clowney is a pretty decent center and a backup, big. Shake Milton is a serial professional and miles ahead of Jamal Shead right now as a basketball player. And none of this matters. None of it matters. Jalen Wilson shot 1 for 11, 0 for 7 from three. They shot abysmally from three. Take a look at the team stats. My goodness, they shot 9 for 39 and beat you, largely because the rebounding differential was huge, 53 to 34. That was enormous. The Raptors got clobbered in the glass. They got clobbered in the paint without Jakob Poeltl in there. And some of you are saying, why not play Bruno Fernando? Well, easy. Bruno Fernando is not on a guaranteed contract. This is the politics of the NBA, man. Get wise to it or just stop watching basketball. Like at this point, like if you don't get it, you don't get it. Like there's nothing to be said about it. The Raptors led by as much as 10. Eventually, they end up losing by 7. They almost lost by 9. They pretty much pissed this game away. I mean, you don't have to like, it's not rocket science. The Raptors proved they could win this game. If right now in the fourth quarter, they decide to play lineups that are designed to win this game, they would win this game. And then sometime around the 4-minute mark, they just stop scoring. They stop scoring. Is this team wise to what their team is doing? I don't know. Should this, there were times today when I was watching this game and I was like, man, will the NBA investigate this? Because this might be one of the most blatant instances of tanking I've ever seen in my life. It is absolutely crazy. But you know what's crazy? What's the most crazy is you really needed this loss because this Nets team is about to tear it down. And at some point, you're going to have to catch them. You're going to have to catch them. Now, hang on, let me remove this. Excuse me. Okay, let me pull that off and let's take a look at some of the film. There were some very, very exciting moments. Some very beautiful basketball was played today. And in the midst of the loss, there was a win, I would say. There was a win. And it was a win for team basketball. The Raptors shared the basketball. They moved the basketball. Scottie got a whole bunch of above the break threes, some from very deep distance. It's been fun, man. It's been fun. If you're not having fun, I suggest you check back in next season. Okay. Now take a look. This was a very athletic play from Grady Dick. So Scottie Barnes is going to miss this shot, and Grady is going to come in. Ochai, good job boxing out. Grady just goes up and slams it. Nice from another angle as well. Take a look here. Boom. Very cool. Okay. Moving on. That was one of the plays of the game. This was another one. Smooth operator, man. Ja'Kobe Walter had some very, very bright moments tonight. And this was one of them. In transition, going up against the bigger Day'Ron Sharpe, good shot blocker. Just puts it up around him. Very nifty. Very nice. He tried a nice Euro step move that was blocked by Cam Johnson. And is there anyone on this team that you can think of who's better at making 4-point plays than Ja'Kobe Walter? Here he goes. This is the third time this dude has done this in less than 3 weeks. Boom, boom, boom. Very nice. Very nice. Scottie Barnes said Scottie Barnes haters in shambles. Well, they're not in shambles. They're in Raptors face right now. But look at the depth on this tree. Can we respect this? He didn't take this because the shot clock was running down. He wanted this. This is his shot now. And you know what? It really does help. When defenses start actually guarding that a little bit, it's going to open up the court a lot. This is probably my play of the night. And it's not really even a play. It's a series of plays. Take a look. Okay. So first, this starts out with a Jonathan Mobo pass to Ochai Agbaji. Ochai Agbaji collapses the defense, finds Jonathan Mobo, quick swing, very quick swing. And this can only happen with these 5 players on the court, which is your young starting lineup, because Lord help you, if Chris Boucher gets in on this, it's going to be stopped. Although, salute to Chris Boucher, who made a very, very nice pass to Jamal Shead for a 3, which we did not capture. But he's going to quick swing. And what's Grady going to do? Quick pump fake, collapse, paint touch. What we say? More than a shooter. Look at who Scottie's pointing to. Quick. How open are you? How open is that? Oh, man. We used to pray for days like this in Raptors land. And cheat, it went in. Beautiful basketball. That is beautiful basketball. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is not beautiful basketball, but it worked. Scottie Barnes with his first soccer assist. Oh, boy. Oh, I died laughing. Okay. Kicks this basketball. Refs decide to let it go. I don't know why they let it go. But Ochai Agbaji doesn't quit on the play. Nice little reverse layup. Ben Taylor is friggin' awful, isn't he? Okay. Nice. Now, I said this is cinema. I love basketball. I love pure basketball. This is pure basketball. Defender Noah Clowney turns his back on Grady Dick, which means there's no chance in hell he's going to recover to this. Look at where Noah Clowney is. Look at where Noah Clowney is. He thinks he's going out to Ochai because that was the obvious pass, but Scottie doesn't make the obvious pass. Scottie makes the great pass. Now, when you can generate a three this open for your best shooter, this is cinema. When I say this is cinema, that's what I mean. That's great passing. That is great process. All right. Ooh, great play by Jamal Shead, man. I love Jamal Shead. And this is just awesome. Grady passes out to Jamal Shead. There's 5 seconds left on the clock. Point guards always understand the clock situation, right? Now he knows, bigger defender, take him to the basket. Take him to the basket, right? Puts a shoulder into him, takes the contact, finishes through contact. Very nice. This is the separator between him and Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet bricks that all the time. Fred VanVleet bricks that. I'm not saying Fred VanVleet can't make open layups, but as a rookie, Fred is putting that up as a soft, layup, getting blocked, missing it. Jamal Shead has the burst. He takes that contact in his upper body, and he's going to make it. Okay, what's going on here? Scottie is going to directing traffic here. One. Hey, that's nice. That's nice. Who said he can't be a go-to scorer? Someone stupid, I'm sure. All right. Oh, man. I said the NBA is going to collapse, investigate this collapse. I'm going to tell you something, and I don't mean to be rude when I say this, but this game reminded me of every 2K game I've intentionally lost in my life. You want to know how to lose? You want to know how to lose a basketball game? Lose the guy who's scoring all the points for the other team like this. How do you lose him? How do you give him? Do you see how open he is? This is not a revelation. He's one of the best shooters in the NBA, and you are basically look at the coverage right now on Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons couldn't make this jump shot to save his life. If his life depended on it, he would airball this. And yet, here we are completely out of position trying to stop a Ben Simmons, I don't know. And you're going to leave Cam Johnson, of all players, open. And this is wide open. Jonathan Mobo doesn't even close out. I mean, if you really think about it, he kind of jumps. But what good does this do? This is, by definition, this is a wide open shot for a guy who has been killing you all night. Am I mad at this? No. Congratulations, Jonathan Mobo. I hope you've been seeing all my tank videos, okay? Because that is how you tank. Okay, this is absolutely how you tank. One more caption, Tankathon. Here comes Scottie Barnes on Ben Simmons. Mobo sets the screen. Scottie gets a switch. They're very happy to switch. And Scottie, offensive foul. Second time he did that. First time it was with his shoulder. This time with his elbow. Very obvious. Very clear. But also how you tank basketball games. Okay? So, if you want to be upset about this loss, that's on you. I want to do something more productive with my life than be upset about a loss that I was, frankly, perfectly fine with. Now, bigger picture stuff. I understand that some people are still, for some strange reason, rooting for wins. You are 7-21. You have lost against Miami, Chicago, and Brooklyn. Those were the only winnable games on your schedule. Do you know what I mean? Like, this was it. This is your whole season right here, hanging on the line. Did you see a team that went out trying to defend their season? Do you think that these players who've been playing basketball their whole lives don't understand what their team is actively doing right now? Do you think they're that stupid? Do you think that they are not clued into this? Do you think Darko Rajakovic is like breaking clipboards right now? Like, how the hell did we lose Cam Johnson in transition? Jonathan Mobo, you're a bum. You think he's doing that right now? Come on, man. Come on. This is about reps. This is about habits. This is about rhythm. And this is not about this season. This is a bigger picture. This is such a bigger picture. And the bigger picture is the Nets are about to tear it down. And the Nets just got a win, and you just got a loss. And the truth is, a loss against the Nets is worth like 3 losses in my book. A loss against Charlotte is worth like 3 losses. Do you know that Utah won tonight? Utah beat Detroit tonight. Chicago beat Boston tonight. Holy shit, the tank is on track right now. The tank is more on track than I ever thought possible. The Raptors did win a whole bunch of meaningless games at some point. The tank could be better, but let me show you what's up with the tank. There's the tank. This is the tank. Wait a second. Am I not lagging? Is this the first time I haven't lagged with the video and the video? Yes. Maybe my computer has finally evolved. Or maybe there was some sort of software update that I'm not lagging. Oh, that's beautiful. I don't want to tempt fate, but like I've been having this issue where all the video that I show always is laggy. Y'all notice that since I switched on this new computer? Man, if this is permanent, I'm so happy. Okay. Let us pray. Okay. So this is where you're at right now. 7-21. This team right here, 6-20, they just won tonight. So while I'm not saying they're catchable, they're more catchable than they were 2 nights ago. Lost 6. Yo, right here. These 5 teams have torn it down. They're tearing it down. This team is going for it right here. This team, they're going to try to tear it down. This team is going for it. This team right here just won tonight. They're going to eventually decide that they might need to tear it down too. So there's one team right here that's probably going to decide they're going to tear it down. There's another team. What the Raptors need to do is put as much distance between this team and themselves. Because I'll tell you right now, there are certain nights where you're going to face a team that's going to shoot cold. It happened tonight. The Nets shot super cold. They shot super cold. I don't think you can shoot worse than the Nets shot tonight, and they still won somehow. This was an epic tank. Epic tank. This was a tank of enormous proportions. Now, if you want to call in, please call in. Definitely we can have a conversation. Is Detroit is tanking? Question mark. I don't think Detroit is tanking. I think Detroit literally just lost to a team that blew the shit out of them in the first quarter. Utah did everything in their power to give that game away after the first quarter. Did you all watch? Did you all see the NBA today? I don't know if there are sports bettors among you, but if there are, you are holding the most major L in the world tonight because Utah beat a team that they were not supposed to beat. Chicago beat a team that they were like 14.5-point favorites to lose. Oh my God, tonight is like the worst night in NBA history when it comes to beating the odds because good for you. Good for you. I don't bet on sports. Good for you. Because if you did, tonight was the worst night of your life. Luis Mavro, what's up?
Hey, yo, Pen, what's good, bro?
I'm good. What's up?
Good. Love watching you on PC and also here, man. So obviously we're talking tank right now, so I want to stay on topic.
For sure.
I mean, look, I still I'm sure the front office, Bobby, Masai, they're still thinking, look, we haven't seen IQ, RJ, Scottie, Grady. At a certain point, I'm sure they're going, look, we need a 10-game sample size to get some sort of data. Do you think that they're still thinking this, or is it no? Like at this point, it's a lost cause. Let's just tear it down. Let's go all in on the tank.
Everything comes down to pros and cons. Everything comes down to weighing variables. Okay. So I'll give you two variables. I'll give you two outcomes. On the one hand, you get the 10-game sample size of Scottie, IQ, Grady, Scottie, and that entire that starting lineup, and you have a 10-game sample against some pretty good teams. Okay. The Brooklyn Nets are not a good team, though, to be clear. So if you want that sample, I'd rather get it against New York, Boston, Houston. That's where I want that sample. I want to test it against good teams. Now, let's say you test that against good teams and you go 4-6. Are you happy with that?
Me personally, I would see. For me, it's not about wins and losses. It depends on how we're playing during those games. So if we're competitive, then yes, I would be happy.
Okay. So 4-6 against a slate of teams that are on average 700 win percentage. You play your starters in the toughest stretch against those teams, and you go 4-6. Okay. So now you get to the draft, and you have these 4 extra wins that you probably wouldn't have had you not tried to test the sample size. And the gap of 4 wins is the gap between the 4th worst record and the 8th worst record. Now, are you happy?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So the job of good executives is to be able to get to that outcome, project that outcome, and then not head off the cliff. The job of a good executive was knowing that Fred VanVleet was going to walk. The job of a good executive is to do something about it before he does. The job of a good executive was to know that when you protected that pick to San Antonio, that there was a good chance it was going to be a lottery pick. Because Lord knows what they might have done with that lottery pick that's better than Jakob Poeltl. Because I'll tell you right now, there ain't a player picked at 8, 9, 10, or 11 who has less value right now than Jakob Poeltl. And I'm pretty sure about that. Zach Edey, you name your pick, man. Nikola Topic, every one of these players as an asset right now is worth more than Jakob Poeltl. So you gave up not only that pick, but you gave up 2 second rounders as well, both of which are going to be high level second rounders. So I don't know what the opportunity cost is there, right? Not to mention you gave up a chance to actually tank in a draft, which had with Victor Wembanyama. So again, to avoid that catastrophe over again, I would try to bottom out. At this point, you're so close. 7-21 is disastrous. It's a horrible record, right? So even when your schedule eases up later, you're going to have a difficult time trying to out-tank Washington. So you're going to bake those wins in as almost guaranteed wins later on in the season anyway, at which point you'll probably be playing G Leaguers. You'll have shut down Scottie Barnes. If he suffers even one more, like if he suffers a broken nail, I'm shutting him down for the season at this point. Like I'm just done, So I don't really care about all this stuff. I'm a very, very big picture person. I've always tried to pride myself on that. I'm not living by wins and losses. I don't watch the Raptors to watch them win one game so that my day can be better. I'm watching this team to see what can they do as a foundational piece to add to their core. And I'll guarantee you, if they don't fuck up a top 5 pick, that will be the second best asset on their roster immediately.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think our front office is generally very good at drafting. I think we have that's really been Masai's strength.
But we're also great at developing.
Absolutely.
Right. And then you get a top 5 pick. And I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again, is it's one thing to develop a Jacoby Walter, who's a fine young player, one thing to develop a Jonathan Mobo. Again, really good young players. And you're seeing growth. Ochai Agbaji, great. RJ Barrett, great. Grady Dick, great. But there's a gap between these guys and Dylan Harper and the Cooper Flaggs of the world. It's a huge gap. It's a huge gap in raw natural talent. So what happens when you start to manipulate with really high-end, top-tier talent. What happens when you start, it's like getting a great, it's like you got 2 days free service from the most gifted mechanic in the world, right? And he's like, yo, I'll do whatever for you for 2 days. And you're going to hand him a Honda Civic? Nah, fuck the Honda Civic. I'm going to hand him like a Bugatti. I'm going to hand him a Porsche. I'm going to hand him like the most expensive car I can think of. And that's what I want to say. Like, the Raptors need some high-end talent. I appreciate what they're doing with these, the Jameson Battles and the Grady Dicks of the world, but these are not the highest level talents in the league. What would a Raptors, development staff do with a Victor Wembanyama? What would they do with a Cooper Flagg? These are the ace. So, whether you're talking Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, the raw natural talent is leaps and bounds above anyone on this team not named Scottie. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I want to add one more blue chipper to this and then cook for the next decade.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm in complete agreement too. I just think it's tough with Masai, man, because you really never know with him. I feel like he's never really been a proponent of tanking. I mean, we
Not
saw it
true.
in Tampa a little bit.
Not true. Not true at all. He tried to tank in 2014, accidentally reverse tanked, created We the North, but had the Kyle Lowry trade actually gone through and the DeMar DeRozan trade that was already, DeMar had called his agent and he had asked to be out. He said, if Kyle leaves, I'm gone. That's over. So then he tried to tank and probably would have gotten Giannis Antetokounmpo, who a lot of people are talking about as one of the 10 greatest players of all time. So would we have been better off? Would we have won a championship with Giannis? Imagine Masai building around Giannis. Holy shit. We might have won 3 championships by now. We'll never know. But the Masai has shown that he's not an idiot when it comes to the tank. He tore it down in Tampa, albeit a little bit late. He definitely has shown the ability to tear it down last year. Like, we were starting Malik Williams and we were playing Mohamedou Gay. That was some of the worst basketball I've ever seen in my life. It won't be that ugly this year. You'll get a 30-point bomb every now and again from Grady and Jacoby, and it won't mean nothing. You have perfect tank commanders across the board right now. You have, RJ Barrett, who doesn't play a lot of defense, but moves the needle offensively. That helps. Jacoby Walter, very talented, very fun to watch. But, overall net negative right now. Jamal Shead, very, very pesky, very hardworking, but ultimately can't shoot very well and is a net negative and very undersized. So you have all these players who are like the perfect tanking players, and this is like the perfect tanking roster because it's stupidly incomplete. You just can't win. Some of these lineups that you're playing out here, Chris Boucher, Kelly Olynyk, Scottie Barnes, well, what are we doing here? Some of these lineups are like, they should be studied. They really should be. That's where I'm at. Yeah. Who do you like in the draft? I'm curious.
Me personally, and I haven't done my full scouting yet, but I don't like Ace Bailey. I just want to put that out there. Like, to me, people say that, okay, he's making tough shots, but the fact that you even have to take tough shots against college defenders, I think says a lot. Like, good players should be able to create good shots. So I don't think it's the flex that people make it out to be. Now, with that said, obviously, I like Flagg. I like Harper. I think those two would work really well on our team. I like the Demon Kid. I think he'd be good. I don't think he has the star upside of those two, but I still think he's a very solid pro at the NBA level. So I like those 3 right now. My fear though is, like, we're number 4 right now. I think we're probably gonna lose maybe 8 of the next 10, maybe 9 of the next 10. We have a very tough schedule ahead. My fear though,
We have the Brooklyn Nets again though.
yeah, but like, eventually you are gonna get IQ back, and if we win even 3, 4, 5 games extra, like, that will cost you come lottery time. And now we're
Well,
looking at
that's why losses like this are so important, because in the end, all the losses end up. Nobody cares that your 27 wins at the end of the year were against playoff teams, play-in teams, lottery teams. But what I know for sure is that when you lose to a team that you're trying to out tank, it's 2. That matters, because you just added a win to Brooklyn's record. You just added a win to Chicago's record. Now, if you go out and you beat Boston, imagine that, right? You go beat Boston, you lose against Brooklyn. That's better than beating Brooklyn and losing to Boston. It's way better. So I want the wins. Like, if I want the Raptors to really have like 20 competitive games this year, I want them all to be against playoff teams. I don't want us putting up best game plans and putting together synergistic, great lineups and having Scottie Barnes try to go out and exert himself and trying to score 30, 40 points against the Brooklyns and Washingtons of the world. I really don't care. That's the worst possible door. I mean, I mentioned it, when I said the three door theory, when I was painting out the 3 doors that the Raptors could walk through, beating Brooklyn and trying to sell yourself on hope, that's the worst possible way we could go. So either bottom out or beat some great teams and show yourself that you're worth investing in. And then, I don't know, go trade a first round pick for Cameron Johnson and try to make the playoffs. It's one of those two. I don't want to be in the play-in by default, because that can happen. You keep winning these Washington, Charlotte, Brooklyn games, and at some point you're going to realize that you're in like a 3-way tie for 11th, 10th, 9th in the play-in, and it's like the other two teams are literally trying to lose and you're trying to win, and it's like beating them means nothing. It means nothing, and we already identified like there are definitively 5 teams in the East that are trying to be bad right now. Washington, 100%. Charlotte, 100%. Brooklyn, 100%. And Chicago is trying to sell right now. So I would rather create a situation where it's like impossible for Chicago to sell, because Chicago and Brooklyn are trying to offload some contracts right now. Chicago is trying to boost the trade value of Zach LaVine. For whatever reason, they think winning 3 straight games right now is gonna boost them up. Cool, man. Win all the games you want. But at some point, Indiana is going to want to push for the playoffs. Detroit is not trying to tear it down. I don't understand what they're doing, but they've lost 6 of their last 10. So at this point, I'm looking at teams like Detroit, Indiana, Sacramento, and I'm looking at like, what can we give them that might help them? You know what I mean? And subconscious and in the same vein, help us, because these are the teams I want to help. I want to help these teams get out of this situation. I would love to give, the Washington Wizards some help right now. I'd love to give them Bruce Brown. I would love to give them, I'd love to give the New Orleans Pelicans some Jakob Poeltl help for some future first round picks. You know what I mean? Like, these are the teams. Like, I'm just thinking this strategically from a tanking perspective. The end goal is to get as high as possible on this board. It's, you know what I mean? Like, you just got to get as high as you can. And I know it's not very appetizing for people to hear this. It sounds very depressing to, be rooting for losses at this point. But if you're losing, why go against it? You know what I mean? That was my one vow coming into the season, is I'm never going to root against the win, which is to say that I'm never going to come on after a win and be like, shit, we should have lost. But when we lose, I'm going to be a happy person.
So you're a proponent then of trading Yuck?
Oh, hell yeah. I did the simulation 5 different times in 2K, and literally every single time I traded him. Every time.
So what would your response be to those saying, hey, look, if we want to develop Scottie, if we want to develop Grady, you need a starting center with them out there?
My point would be, number 1, timelines. Number 2, trajectories. Number 3, fit and archetype. So timelines. When are you looking to be good? Next year through 2029, 2030. Okay, cool. Jakob Poeltl is going to be too old and he's going to be expiring next year. So that doesn't help you. The second part is trajectory. How do I project Jakob Poeltl to look in a couple of years? The same argument I made against Pascal and Fred. I do not see this going well for the Raptors. Holding on to Jakob Poeltl and hoping that he will just magically turn it around defensively is not something that I'm willing to bet on. The third thing is archetypes. I like to put players around my best player who fit my best player. I'm pretty clear about who my best player is. Some people think it's the other guy. Honestly, whoever you think the best player on the Raptors is, Jakob Poeltl is not like the ideal or optimal fit for either of them. He clogs up space in the paint. He's exclusively at this point pretty much a drop big. He does a lot of brilliant things that help your guards and your wings score. He has incredible basketball IQ. He's a pretty good decision maker and a playmaker, and he's an efficient, post target. He's like, he makes good decisions in the middle of the court, and that could be very helpful for a second unit looking to bolster, solidify themselves. But if your future is IQ Grady plus anything, if those two are part of your future, Jakob Poeltl must become a much better defender than he currently is. He must become the type of rim protector that, I don't want to say Rudy Gobert, but at least Miles Turner. You got to be like a massive rim deterrent to clean up all the leaky, and then you add RJ to that. Like I'm not trying to create like this messy ass team, RJ is not quite the shooter, and I don't think Scottie's quite the shooter. Neither of these guys are the types of shooters that you can have a center constantly in the paint. It's not Steph Curry, and neither of these guys are going to turn into Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, So Jakob Poeltl works in Golden State. To me, like he works on a team with great spacing, great shooting, great movement. He work in Memphis perfectly, where you have a dynamic guard like John Morant and, a guy who's having a cold season in Desmond Bane. But for the Raptors, long term, I don't see it. He's 29 years old. It's going to be 30 soon. I don't really see it, man. I don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think people just they value one season development, like just the 1 year that you would get this year to develop the players. But I mean, I think you can take a step back for 1 year and then get your blue chip prospect and then go full swing next year.
I mean, how good do people think Jakob Poeltl is? I mean, so I've heard some people talk about him like he's a top 10 center. I don't think he's a top 10 center. It's literally the conversation we had on the panel today was about Giannis versus Jokić, right? And we were talking about the spacing that Jokić provides, the off-ball gravity that he provides, the that ability to be a trailer in transition as opposed to always being the guy who has to occupy the paint. If I'm building around Scottie Barnes, I need an open paint. I need the paint to be open. If I'm building around RJ Barrett, I need the paint to be open. If I'm building around Immanuel Quickley, I definitely need a good screen and roll partner. But Jakob Poeltl is not the only good screen and roll target in the league. So ideally, whoever plays that center spot should be mobile, switchable, good defender, and a decent shooter. Obviously, to play in Darko's system, there's the extra wrinkle that you have to be a really good passer. Like you have to be a good decision maker. So that's going to be, it complicates Shead a little bit, but you can make people slightly better passers. Yeah, Oak Tree saying the Raptors media has hyped Jakob into being a top 10 center. People always want to cap about what they have, and that's cool. That's perfectly fine. That's normal human response. I look at Jakob Poeltl like I look at a dot on a page. Like to me, it's not emotional. I'm just looking at what he does. It's perfectly good. It's perfectly serviceable. But I think Cameron Johnson's a way better basketball player. You know what I mean? I've felt that way for years. Jakob Poeltl, Cameron Johnson, this is gaps and gaps and gaps. And the very same trade package that got you Jakob Poeltl is exactly what the Nets are looking right now for Cameron Johnson. That's the gap. It's the portability gap. It's how he fits next to what you're doing gap. Jakob Poeltl was brought here for largely one purpose, and it was to be a screen and roll partner with Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet is gone. You don't have anything like Fred VanVleet on your roster right now. And the timeline has just changed. You were building at that moment when you made the trade, you were building around 2 30-year-olds. It's the entire roster has changed. I understand preserving the asset. You have them on your books. You can't just toss them away. You're not going to give them away for nothing. I get that. But if you could sign him right now, would you sign him right now to $20 million free agent?
The Raptors or any franchise?
Okay, play it out. If you're the Raptors right now, you go into free agency, you have $35 million of cap space. Are you signing Jakob Poeltl to $20 million of that?
Probably not.
Okay. Is there a center that you would pay $20 to $30 million for?
Miles Turner.
Okay. So you would rather pay $30 million for Miles Turner than $20 million for Jakob Poeltl. Am I right?
That's correct.
Miles Turner is going to be a free agent this summer. There you go. So, it's like that. Like, I'm not even that high on Miles Turner. He has plenty of holes himself. He's not nearly as good a defender as people think, but it's just a much better fit next to Scottie. I mean, we're literally watching this right now with what the Knicks are doing. Have you seen the Knicks offense this year? with Karl Anthony Towns? Are you seeing what Kristaps Porzingis, in theory, is able to do for the Boston Celtics? What Nikola Vucevic, right today, was able to do against the Boston Celtics for the Chicago Bulls, who are winners of 3 straight now. Stretch bigs matter, man. That ability to be able to stretch, it just matters so much. And I've listened to the Raptors broadcast. I mean, they're salesmen. They're trying to sell the product. That's what they do. That's their job. I'm not against it. I respect it. But in the end, that's not my job. My job is not to come here and gas up every single Raptor player like they're, God's gift to Green Earth. My job is to support the Raptors' long-term vision and ideally their next championship. I don't think Jakob Poeltl is going to be on your next championship, man. That's where I'm at. But he's good for now. He's good for now. He's competent big.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I do have to get off. Before I go though, I just want to thank you for personally. I want to thank you for not promoting gambling on your show. I've noticed you're very a proponent of that, of not showing that. So really do appreciate it. It's actually rare to see a streamer do that in this day and age. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you for appreciating that. My pleasure. Take care, man. Yeah, some of you will have noticed that on the panel there is a lot of promotion of that, but there is a caveat. The particular brand that promotes the panel is not available in Ontario, and the vast majority of our listeners are in Ontario. So that makes me feel at least 10% better. I don't know. Okay, killer vibe. After watching this game, do you think the Raptors about into the tank themselves now? I don't know, man. I mean, honestly, I like these players. I respect the hell out of these players. I would never try to push tanking on them or push tanking against them. I would never try to tag them in a post about tanking. I'm always genuinely embarrassed when I look at our stories on Instagram and I see a whole bunch of Raptors looking at our stories, and that's one of the things is about like, oh, I hope we lose this. Like, I hate that. I don't want that. I don't want to put that energy out there. I understand. I have a lot of respect for competitive basketball players. I have a lot of respect for basketball players in general. It's tough. What these guys do is tough. Y'all might think they get paid millions of dollars, but what they do is tough. It's hard. It's physical. It's very easy to not care. And I don't want this team to not care. I want this team to care and lose by 2 every night, which is really difficult to do. Okay. Lil John, what up, man?
How you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you?
Listen, I'm doing fine, man. I'm doing fine. I also wanted to say I've been listening to Player's Choice as well. I really enjoy you on there. That take Dennis Schroder over Derek White, that was really wild.
Respect to Jordan though. I love Jordan. Jordan's my dude. Shout outs to Drenchman Sports. I just did not agree with that take at all.
All those guys are they all seem good. Seem like good guys though. So
they're great. They're awesome. They're very, very solid people.
Yeah. It's a fun time. I've been watching it recently, especially when you're on. Now to the game. This loss was worth like 3 losses, like you said. This was
clutch.
Clearly the Raptors were tanking this game. It's unfortunate that, that it kind of transpired the way it did, where it kind of looked like they were going to win. And because, at the end of the day, if Scott, like I said before, if Scottie's in the lineup, I like to see him pull out a win because, especially in a game like this, he was the best player on the court by far. So you would like to see him flex his muscle and then, pull out a win. But again, some of those lineups, I think Shead finished the game. I think Jakob. I mean, these are below replacement level players currently. So it's kind of like it's a gift
and that's the thing.
Kinda...
We got to not be emotional about it. I love Jamal Shead more than I love certain dead relatives. I 100% agree with you that he's below replacement level right now.
So is Jacoby.
And then also respect to Jacoby. Love Jacoby too.
And then also,
maybe it's not that I love the Raptors so much. Maybe it's that I don't like my dead relatives, but I like Jacoby more than some of my dead relatives too.
And then for some reason, Darko just does not have someone who can guard Cam Johnson, and Scottie's pressuring Ben Simmons. Like, I understand what they're trying to do so he can play off of him and kind of muck stuff up. But you would have thought like, all right, maybe fourth quarter he guards Cam Johnson. It's like, no, they're just gonna continue to let him go one-on-one against Grady Dick. I don't really I don't really understand what. Like I feel like if you're trying to win, you probably don't let that happen. And he's getting wide open turnaround shots at 14 feet over Grady Dick.
Dude, I died watching that. It was the stupidest shit on earth, and it kept
This was
happening
such
over.
a weird game. It was such an odd game. It was like, are they tanking or are they not? I was confused the entire time.
Really? What are you confused about? What's confusing?
Because it seemed like they were trying to win. Especially when I noticed when Scottie was good for the game, I'm like, all right, seems like that they're trying to at least, not necessarily win, they want to win this game because the lineup said they didn't. But again, I feel like if Scottie's in the lineup, they're kind of okay with the win. And it's like at the same time, I'm just seeing Cam Johnson ISO against Grady in the middle of the court with 5 minutes left against Grady Dick, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yo, respect my guy Grady Dick, man. All defense, Grady Dick. Been defending since his Kansas days. I looked at his pre-draft comp, Herb Jones. You don't see the Herb Jones? You don't see the
Sorry?
OG Anunoby in Grady Dick?
Absolutely not. I
No?
don't see it. I don't
You
see it.
don't see that? Come
Not-
on, man.
not at
Grady
all.
Dick, he be locking up like prime Michael Jordan. In fact, I have a great Grady Dick comparison. I was looking at NBADraft.net. Grady Dick comparison, Scottie Pippen. Lockdown. All defense. It's coming.
Oh my God! Do you
It's
remember
coming.
that? Do you remember?
Yo, the reps. You need the reps. If you're gonna get there, you need the reps. If you want to become primetime Kawhi Leonard, if you're Grady Dick, you need the damn reps. And you get those reps against all-stars like Cameron Johnson.
Do you remember that possession where it was? I think there was 10 seconds left. This was maybe like 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left. Darko calls a timeout. 10 seconds left in the shot clock. I think the Nets were in a zone. They did some movements, and then Mogbo was in the middle of the zone, and then he went up for like a floater, and it was like, what is going on with these possessions? I'd
Okay.
love for you to go back and look at that. Some of the possessions
Let's role play this out. You be Darko Rajakovic. I'll be the Raptors on the bench. Talk to me about what's going on. What's this huddle? Tell me what you think Darko should be saying to these guys.
All right,
What's
we're
up,
not
coach?
letting Cameron Johnson should not be dribbling the ball in space. If he has the ball against Grady Dick, we're running two at him.
Okay.
That's number one. Offensively, we need good spacing. We need Mogbo in the dunker spot. Scottie would like you to penetrate, get downhill. Grady, let's be a little less erratic on offense. And I guess that's what I would say. But none of that happened.
You know what I would say?
But
Guys, good effort. It's great. Let's just keep, let's keep the main thing. MIG, Darko basketball, keep moving the ball, keep trying hard, chalk it up to teamwork, energy. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Let's go. Cooper Flagg on 3. Cooper Flagg on 3. That's what I would say. I would say I would say wave the white flag on 3. 1, 2, 3, go.
Oh, I'm not even going to talk about this game anymore. I heard you. I saw a couple of days ago that you were talking about who people were saying who they would rather have, Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper. I'd take Cooper Flagg. This team has gone so small all of a sudden, and just like I don't even think Scottie's been that good defensively this year. But when he's on the court, it just seems like he's a giant out there because everyone's so small. So all of a sudden, if you have another Scottie-sized guy out there, we go from a basement defense into like all of a sudden we're like 15th on defense, just by him just standing there. And then offensively, there's so much to work with Cooper. I know Ron has shown a lot more, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I take Cooper 20 times out of 20. I take him 30 times out of 30. I take him 100 times out of 100. I take him 1,000 times out of 1,000. So far from what I've seen,
right?
It's the size, it's the playmaking, it's the motor, it's the work ethic, it's the trajectory, it's the marketing, it's everything. It is everything. And yes, it is the offensive potential as well. You take I've never been one of those proponents of you got to take the bigger player. I was literally making videos in 2007 saying I take KD over Greg Oden. 10 times out of 10 I take KD over Greg Oden. Now, also, I was literally the year before saying I take Andrea Bargnani over everybody. So maybe my draft record is not perfect at all, but generally speaking, when all things are equal, you take the bigger playmaker, you take the better defender, you take the more versatile player, you take the more useful player. And sure, if Dylan Harper turns into a better version of Brandon Roy, meets James Harden, then you sit there and you cry. But you won't end up with a useless player in Cooper Flagg. You'll end up with, at worst, a first-team all-defender. At best, a finals MVP type of guy, a generational, Kevin Garnett level impact kind of guy, a top 30, top 45 all time type of guy. That's the best case, So yeah, his upside is up there with Scottie's. His strengths and weaknesses are a lot up there with Scottie too. But that's the beautiful thing about Scottie is two Scotties is better than one Scottie. And if they can both figure out the shooting, then it's just deadly.
I don't even think he's deadly. I think there's a lot of people who are comping him to Scottie. I don't see that particular comp because I think Scottie's
he's more fluid. He's more fluid at the same age. I'll give him that.
Scottie's first instincts on offense is to pass. I don't think Cooper's first instinct is to pass. I think his first instinct is to score or shoot or drive, or not that he's a scorer. He's more of an all-around player, but Scottie is kind of pass first.
I think
somewhat to a fault.
I think with RJ plus Cooper plus Scottie plus IQ, you could have plus Grady, you could have one of the greatest transition offenses in league history at its absolute apex. And while you would be technically small defensively, you wouldn't feel small defensively because Cooper and Scottie can man that 4-5 together very well. And of course, if at some point you want to go positionally versatile, well, guess what? Cooper and Scottie can also be your 2-3, which is crazy when you think about it, because you can add Jonathan Mobo in there. You can add Jameson Battle in there. They're so seamlessly portable in all these different lineups. I'm just, I don't think people fully appreciate what Cooper's doing, but he's a 17-year-old playing against effectively 21, 22-year-olds. There's a lot of older guys, bigger guys, stronger guys than him, and he just looks athletically like he's on a different planet. He's a man among boys at 17. There are not a lot of players at 17 who could do what he's doing right now.
I will say the 17 thing is a little played out because he's about to be 18, and also the rest of his draft mates are also.
Well, it's 18. Not played out because he literally reclassified, so he should be in high school right now. He literally reclassified to do this.
I think Ace and Dylan are his age though, his year though, aren't they?
But year in the United States is not. Wait, you're from the United States?
No.
You're from Canada. My bad. Why do I always think you're from the United States? My bad, man. Okay, no. So in the United States, your year of high school is like September onward. So you are like, if you're born, like, so I was November, so I was always like old for my grade. But when I came here, I realized I'm actually a grade behind, right? Because had it been, like, I'm 87 born, but the 87 born matters in Canada because you're literally sorted by the people that are born in your year. So here, if you're born January 1st, 87, and December 30th, yeah. 87, you're in the same grade. Whereas in the United States, the cutoff is the first day of the school year. So it doesn't matter what year you're born in. Scottie was young.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
That is true. That's so yeah, and Hal saying Ace is 19, Dylan is 18. Important to realize.
Oh,
yeah,
Ace is 19?
Yeah, I think he just turned 19. Hang on, let me just double check this.
So
okay, so
05,
Ace Bailey is 06, August 13th, 2006.
Can't be 19 then.
So he's 18.
Yeah, he's not 19. Well, anyways, it's semantics. Anyways, have you been watching... I told you about Dairy Queen. Have you been watching Dairy Queen?
Not enough. Are you 100% sure that he's going to come out in this draft?
I mean, if you're projected top 10 or anywhere in that ballpark, you probably should come out, right?
True.
He's really good offensively. Like, I don't know where the defense lands, but this is like some Sengun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's like real skill, drop step, pivots, touch. There's even a jumper that's kind of I'd say is more ahead of Sengun at when Sengun was playing in Turkey. Like he's really good. Like if the Raptors are in that 6, 7, 8, 5 range, I would love to get him because then he could play the passing out of the high post role that Jakob does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many guys that could fit. Like, we just need, like you said, we need one more guy, get a little healthy, and then we're an 8 seed next year,
Mm-hmm.
which is the goal. So, of course, we want to get 1, 2, or 3, ideally, especially now.
Right. So to clarify this, Ace Bailey is born. They're all born in 2006. Ace is so Dylan is the oldest, March. Ace is the second oldest, August, and Cooper is the youngest. He's born in December.
December,
So
yeah.
late December. So Cooper is 4 months younger than Ace, and he is 8 months younger than Dylan, which matters to me because at this stage, and while people think we're splitting hairs, it's really not. When you are talking about the development of players, especially great players and really good players at this age, right? You are really, really talking about like massive leaps every 3-4 months, potentially. We're talking
Yeah,
about
fair.
quantum leaps. So you don't know, I don't know, because we saw it with Scottie. Literally, Florida State, start of the season, Florida State, we lost Lil John, maybe he'll come back. Florida State, start of Florida State, go into the Florida State season, come into the pre-draft, already different player, come into his Raptors season, already different player, come into his second season, I believe he was a different player, I just think he had a down year. Then come into his third season, completely different player, come into this year, completely different player. 4 times, 5 times, this is flipped. Okay. Mula Meech saying Scottie's a second option. That's like your opinion, man. It's cool. Perfectly fine. Okay. Lil John, what's up? Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So Noble Venom here. People are sleeping on Flagg because he has a skill set that people don't associate with stars. Same reason people sleep on Scottie's upside. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. People have an idea of what a star is supposed to look like based on an archetype of previous stars, but Kevin Garnett didn't really do like the same thing as Michael Jordan or Shaquille O'Neal, but it was very important. And KG was, I genuinely could argue that KG peaked just as high as Shaq, just as high as Tim Duncan in 2004. He was that good. And the minute he had help, Sam Cassell, Latrell Sprewell, boom, he went to the Western Conference Finals. So just because he didn't win rings, those rosters around him were absolute garbage. Okay. I think Cooper has a lot more in common with Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Garnett than he does with Andre Kirilenko.
Oh, he's way better
Truthfully.
than Andre Kirilenko.
Oh, yeah.
Offensively.
Well, I mean, in fairness, Andre Kirilenko was putting up like goddamn like 9 box plus minus in his prime. So Andre Kirilenko is very underrated in his own right.
He is.
The Sean Marions and the Andre Kirilenko archetype, these are legit like top 20 players in their apex. They were really good.
No, he was great, but it was like 70% on the defensive end. And then offensive, it was just very, very just high IQ, just because he was so smart on the offensive end. He couldn't even really shoot that well, but it was just kind of like the plus minus type where it kind of just helped his impact numbers, like the advanced stats. But it was really aided by the defense. Cooper is far ahead offensively. He has a pull up. He legitimately has a pull up. Like it's not consistently going in, but he has a pull up that I'd say Scottie still is kind of like figuring out.
I think they're both going to figure it out. And I think that, you know, there's the intangibles with Cooper Flagg that he changes your practice. That's something you heard about Scottie Barnes too. He changes your practice, right? Cooper's another guy that just changes your practice. He's like super intense. He chases everything. He works harder than other stars. He's like a real tryhard, you know, and he cares about winning. And I don't have to convince this guy to care about winning, which I appreciate. I don't have to convince him to learn the game. He's literally a film nerd and he's going to be in the scouting sessions, taking notes every single day. He cares, which aligns with pretty much every player on the Raptors young core right now. They all care, right? I just think that he aligns very well with how the Raptors want to play basketball. They want to run. He's great at that. They want quick decision makers. He's great at that. They want switchable, wing defenders and positionally versatile players who can play 3-4 positions. He's great at that. And most importantly, they want good young kids who work hard, and he's great at that too. So I think he has real star upside, real all-star, superstar, all-NBA type upside. We'll see if I'm right, if I'm wrong. Certainly wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong, but I certainly see that in him. Yeah.
Nick Claxton, someone I've always kind of been intrigued by, like his fit on the Raptors, him being athletic, being able to run a lob threat for Scottie and the rest of the guys. But he kind of has a temper, and you can't have a temper when you're not that good. I don't know if Masai would be a fan of his character, because I really like him, and I feel like the Raptors can get a lot out of him. But
I had a temper on a basketball court. I don't think that's a character issue. I think that's an impulse management issue. I think that's an anger management issue. But I don't think anger management comes down to your character. His character is who he is when he's neutral. His impulsivity and throwing the basketball, it comes down to just his brain, I think. So, yeah, I mean, one of my favorite players of all time had a temper. Really fantastic person, though, Rasheed Wallace. Right? Just control. Rasheed Wallace can't control his mouth. He can't control his impulse. So in that moment, he thinks he's right, and he has to go to the ref, and he has no context of, shit, it's game 6. I shouldn't do this right now. He whipped a towel at Arvydas Sabonis' head, not thinking once. You know what I mean? It was just, he's emotional. Scottie's emotional. Scottie's emotional as hell. Sometimes it's not the worst thing.
That's fair. I don't really have any more thoughts on this game. Again, hopefully they can continue to go out there, play hard, rack up some losses, and hopefully we get lucky in May with the draft lottery.
Absolutely. All right, man. Cheers. Have a good night.
Yep, you too. Bye.
Okay. So, overall takeaways from this game. The young guys played. You got a very critical loss. You're probably going to win a whole bunch of games you don't want to win later on in the season. So losses like this are going to help, especially when the Brooklyn Nets start tearing it down and pursue their own losses. And I gotta tell you, the 2K thing started to exhaust the NBA 2K25 simulations. But almost every single time I tried to outright tank, like we're talking tank right to the bottom, got the worst record, shut down everybody, traded everybody, tried to play Jamal, Shead, and Davion Mitchell back up, together 40 minutes a night together, trying to see if I could out-lose everybody. And 6 times out of the 7 times that I finished with the worst record, and I did this many times, I got the 5th pick. So there's no way to rig this. You can't rig this in your favor. All you can do is continue to appease the basketball gods by playing as good a brand of basketball as you possibly can with as good a player as you have on your roster. But if you walked into this season seeing a team that was employing 5 rookies, seeing a team that had key veterans like Kelly Olynyk out for 4 months, 3 months with backaches and back pain, and you have guys like Bruce Brown who have yet to suit up for 3 months now, when you're playing key guys, like 5 rookies, you played 4 of them major minutes now. Jameson Battle, Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shead, Jonathan Mobile. And granted, Jameson and, the 2 of the older guys have been very, very good, right? But not using your mid-level exception, not making, those win now trades, not shoring up the backup center spot, rolling into the season, knowing Immanuel Quickley was injured, knowing that would really hamper your season. You can't control certain things. The injuries, you can't control that. RJ Barrett being sick, he was clearly sick. It wasn't fake. He was clearly sick. You don't need to be upset about that. He was sniffling like a motherfucker. Like the last video that they showed with him when he was in the media scrum, I was like legit surprised that he even practiced. This is a young team. And wherever the lottery balls fall, I know for a fact that I am happier with one more loss than I am today with one more win. Now, I don't know about you. You know, if you need to find meaning in this and you need to slander Scottie, or you need to say Masai's an idiot or Jacoby's a bum, or, you know, something like that, then I would just suggest, you know, unplug, come back to the draft. The draft lottery will be, I think, May, right? The draft is in June. It's not that far away. Summer 19th, 5 months away. 5 months. Can you not wait 5 months? Maybe you just need to check out. But for now, it's beautiful to watch these development reps. It's nice to watch some competitive basketball for a bit. And then, basically, like I do in 2K25, literally every time I'm tanking, if I'm up by 6, I check into the game, I pause, I step into the game, and then I start hoisting crazy threes, and I leave 3-point shooters open. It's the funniest shit. When I'm trying to tank in 2K, I do exactly what the Raptors did. I find the hottest shooter and I run away from him. That's what they did with Cameron Johnson. I find the best player. So if I'm going up against Jalen Brunson, I'm like, yeah, you know who I want to guard Jalen Brunson with? Jakob Poeltl. Let's see how this is going to turn out, right? It's hard to do this well, but the Raptors are doing it perfectly, right? So, you know, again, what may happen later, you might have a 3-4 game win streak and you'll be saying, oh, it's too little too late. What are we doing now? But to me, this is like a perfect loss. It's a perfect loss, and you needed this one against a team that is going to 100% be pulling the plug within the next couple of weeks. They are exhibiting Cam Johnson. At this point, I would take this tape of Cam Johnson torching the Raptors and I would literally show it to everybody. If I'm the Nets, if I'm Sean Marks, I am shipping this off to every GM saying, look at what Cam Johnson can do for you. Look at what he could be for you. Cam Johnson's a really good player. I'm a really big fan of his. Really huge fan. I actually like a lot of players on the Nets. I like Daron Sharp. I like Cam Johnson. I don't like Cam Thomas. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like Cam Thomas, but I do like Nick Claxton. I do like some of the young players on this team, and I like Dariq Whitehead as well. So, you know, they got some pieces to build with, but the timeline is not now for the Nets. But they have 11 wins. The timeline is not now for the Chicago Bulls, but they have 13 wins. And the timeline is not now for the Toronto Raptors, but they have 7 wins, and they're currently 7-21. Take a look, just real quick. Take a look. This be the schedule, man. Jeez, what happened here? What's up next? Give me one sec. Houston, Sunday. New York, Memphis, Atlanta, Boston. So that's how you're ending that's how you're ending the year. You could end this year realistically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more losses. 0-5. That puts you at 7-26. You could end this season 7-26. At which point you're either really upset or you're really happy. Either way, it doesn't matter because it's happening anyway. And then you got Brooklyn, Orlando, Milwaukee, New York, Cleveland, Detroit. Man, I don't know what way Detroit's going. I don't know if Brooklyn will still be trying to exhibit Cam Johnson at that point, but now you're once again at home against Brooklyn. So it's another one here. Then you got at home against Orlando. I don't know if Paolo's back for that. Franz is back for that. You know, they played pretty competitively against OKC. That team is probably going to beat you. And yeah, man, like at some point, you're just not going to be able to lose some of these games. So, you know, they all count the same. You're not aiming at the playoffs. Why not lose them while you can? RJ's out. Jakob is out. You know, it's not like Jakob slipped on purpose. You're just trying to sneak in these losses wherever you can. You know, the Chicago game, the Charlotte game, this game. It's not an indictment on anyone on this roster. Please believe me, Scottie Barnes could have won you this game. I believe that. I really do. I believe Darko Rajakovic, had he put Scottie Barnes on Cameron Johnson, goodbye, Cameron Johnson. This game is over. Okay? And we got one more caller. Always a good one. Layne, what's going on? OH.
Yo, IO. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. Actually pretty good. How are you?
I am immaculate. Now that we have decided what we're going to do this year, and I'm
Immaculate. Love it. Okay.
absolutely immaculate. I do agree. I don't know how much you talked about it, so if you talked about it a lot this live, I don't want to kick a dead horse. But I do agree with you on the Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown contract situation. Like, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah. But I mean, someone's got to eat the money, right? You got to get to the salary cap floor anyway. You didn't want to sign anybody else, but I just feel like you could have done something better with that money and taken some assets along with it. My initial goal right now is to look at the draft coffers and add as many picks to that as humanly possible. Seconds, firsts, everything I can. Swaps. I want lottery protected, top 10 protected, I just want as many picks as possible. I believe in this largely from the perspective of flexibility. In today's NBA, picks help you get deals done. So I want to have that financial flexibility as I move forward, that when I want a Cam Johnson, so let's say next year the Raptors do draft a Cooper Flagg or a Dylan Harper or something like that, and let's say they're like, competitive and they want to edge up their competition, now I want to have extra picks that I could actually trade for Cameron Johnson.
Oh, for sure. For sure. My only question would be, do you think at the time when they made the Bruce Brown trade that Masai expected Bruce to play a more pivotal part in this team, or do you think this was the plan all along? I know it's kind of speculation, but
I would like to think that they assumed he would be healthier and better, but I don't think they're really crying that he wasn't. I also think more or less than anything, they were probably hoping he would be more in demand.
Yeah.
I think maybe they just thought of him more than what other teams think of him. It happens. Sometimes you overvalue you overvalue your own analysis of a particular player. Like the Raptors have like a particular version of probably what Chris Boucher is worth in their minds, right? Or Gary Trent is worth, because clearly they signed these guys to these astronomical contracts that nobody else wanted to sign them to, right? Gary Trent's a minimum guy. Chris Boucher next year, minimum guy, if not out of the league. So you look at these guys and you're like, what warranted 10, 12, $18 million contracts? And then are you even surprised that you can't move those contracts after? That's the whole point. Like, I don't want any contracts that become albatross. Loyalty be damned. I understand there's a cost of doing business in the NBA. I just don't want to be hamstrung to a contract that cannot be moved. Right now, I'm looking at Immanuel Quickley. I love Immanuel Quickley. I feel $32.5 million is rich. There's a lot baked into. There's a lot that has to go right. And now what's worst is, as he continues to be injured and the Raptors continue to be bad, there's a lot of people that have basically written him off. And I don't necessarily think that's fair, because injuries are a part of life. They happen to anybody. But at the same time, like, is there any chance he exceeds the value of that contract? I think there's almost no chance that he's going to exceed the value of that contract. He can make it. I think by year 3, he can be a $32 million player in that economy, because like right now, Desmond Bane is a $40+ million player and he's playing like a $20 million player. Yeah. That's worse. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. What do you think about the report that came out today? Because allegedly, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. And he hasn't said anything yet, but they're saying that De'Aaron Fox is going to request a trade out of Sacramento, and that the Raptors are potential suitors, and the deal would have to start with IQ, RJ, and 3 first-round picks. It's on Twitter.
IQ, RJ, and 3 first-round picks.
3 first-round picks. They did not. Everyone was asking in the comments about possible protections, and they didn't say either way. But I'd imagine at least 2 of those picks, or at least one's top 4 protected, and the other's probably top 10.
I'm assuming that you mean the Raptors would be giving out picks.
Yeah, the Raptors would be giving out picks, correct?
Not a chance in hell that's happening.
I don't think so either. I promise you I didn't pull that out of my ass. I can get on Twitter and Google it. Or search it, not Google it on Twitter, but you can search it. It's going to come up.
Noble Venom saying, dog, that was a fake tweet.
It wasn't Centel. Centel made one. It wasn't Centel.
He said IKD. Is it ESPN needs IKD? That's a community member. I don't think he would make a fake tweet. Okay, so here's the thing. First of all, the valuation of that is just wrong. I don't know if De'Aaron Fox is demanding a trade. Mike Brown literally just called them out yesterday. I think it's warranted. De'Aaron Fox has not been great. But if I was to make a trade for De'Aaron Fox, it would be.
Hold on. Did I? I don't think I liked it. Let me go back and look. I do not think I got sent out though. But I think it is. I think De'Aaron will request a trade by the end of the year.
One trade that I made in NBA 2K was I traded the Indiana pick, RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley for Lauri Markkanen and stuff. So that's what I think is fair value.
What was it? And stuff better have been like a first round pick.
It wasn't a first round pick.
Really? See, I don't know if I'm that high on Markkanen. Maybe you're. I mean, I don't know.
It was Walker Kessler.
Oh, Walker Kessler. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I don't know if I'm high on Markkanen though. At this point, like I was high on him when we were trying to compete, maybe, but I don't know. I'd rather let RJ keep doing RJ things and then maybe use him as a sacrificial lamb in a year or two.
Yeah. So I have probably the highest expectations of Immanuel Quickley of anyone that covers the Raptors. Like I liked him in New York. I see the vision. I see the potential. His defense is concerning. His playmaking has been a little bit concerning, especially for a lead guard who's a little bit undersized and sort of declining defensively. However, super hard worker. Clearly, from what I've seen of him this year, there is a bit of a acceleration in his development as a ball handler, as a driver. I saw gaps and finishes as like how he's setting up his shot. I think there's a process. And again, you consider what Ochai Agbaji was and what Ochai Agbaji became, right? That's the full cycle of the process of Darko and Evo, right? So if you think of it from the perspective of this magical little coaching staff that we have can transform your game up 35%. They can make you 35% more efficient. They can change your movements to be 35% better. They can fix your shot form. They can just perfect your game by 35%. It's like a 35% boost, right? What would a 35% boost look like on Immanuel Quickley, New York version of Immanuel Quickley, though? That's a sub all-star.
For sure. And I think at this point, how are you going to remarket who he is as a player? Like, okay, maybe remarket's the wrong term, but I feel like they've been pushing this. He's a point guard forever. But honestly, in my opinion, I feel like the offense runs smoother with RJ and Scottie at the helm. I really do. And I think that how do you tell him at this point, okay, you're back to an off-ball role?
I don't think you need to tell him. I think these things sort of settle themselves. Unless he's ignorant and he can't see what we're all seeing, I don't think he's going to have to hog the basketball. I really don't find him to be a selfish player at all.
I don't think he's
not,
player, but I think when guys get roles, because obviously going into the season, he was the quote-unquote point guard. And I think when guys when they come back from usually the old adage in sports is like you don't lose your starting job because of an injury, right? And even though he's not losing he's going to be a starter no matter what when he comes back, but his role is completely changed when he's been hurt.
So it's not like Scottie wasn't handling the basketball when Immanuel Quickley was here. Scottie was like a point forward. Immanuel Quickley was they were like almost like co-point guards. They were, and also I think that it's worth noting that there were certain times where Immanuel Quickley or RJ Barrett would throw it to Scottie and then he would just throw it back. So this is as much as it is on Immanuel Quickley to adjust, it is also on Scottie to demand that this is my team. And Nikola Jokić does not worry about what position Jamal Murray plays on the box score.
Yep.
He's still going to initiate offense whenever he wants. So the best thing about Immanuel Quickley, which I think too many fans get themselves preoccupied on who's the point guard, who's this, who's that, irrelevant. The idea that you have three is a very, very good problem to have. You know, the Chicago Bulls, granted, Billy Donovan always does this, but they almost always play three point guards. You think they're cribbing about whether Zach LaVine's the point guard, Josh Giddey's the point guard, Kobe White's the point guard. It's great to have three. It's great to have three initiators. The only downside of having 3 point guards is the size. So Scottie's not a point guard size. RJ's not a point guard size. Grady's not a point guard size. At some point, you would hope to have 5 fucking point guards. That would be the greatest thing ever. Imagine having 5 players, all of whom can literally grab the basketball off the glass, initiate the fast break, and set up your offense. How difficult would that make everything?
Yep.
That's the goal.
I'm not worried for the first 46 minutes of the game. On that, I'm worried for the last 2. That's
why? Because you feel like Immanuel Quickley would just be like, okay, I have to set up everything now?
No. I feel like it would almost – I've seen it. Maybe I need to go back and rewatch the film. But in the Clippers game, this when he played this, before he got hurt again, it felt like in the last 2 minutes, it was very half-court offense oriented, where I feel like this is a team that needs to work fast, like be fast. But Quickley they bring the ball up court, get it to Quickley, set a screen, make the play, like run a play, right? Where Scottie or RJ, RJ needs a lot of help. Not a lot of help, a little bit more help than Scottie with, a screen from Yok getting downhill, right? But Scottie just gets it and goes, right? And I have a fear that with IQ as the quote unquote, not even point guard, but quote unquote lead ball handler in the last 2 minutes, it could be a little bit slow to where if Scottie's bringing the ball up, you have IQ on the wing, like it's boom, 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 barbecue chicken, right? I like that sounds a lot better to me than having IQ bring the ball up in the last 2 minutes. Because I completely agree with you in the first 46. I just think the ball needs to be in Scottie's hands. Or I would rather have it in RJ's hands than IQ's, to be honest with you, in the last 2 minutes. But one of those 2 guys. But other than that, I completely agree with you. Maybe it's my vision for this team. Maybe it's how I saw he was used on the Knicks. Maybe that's what it is.
It's possible. There's a bit of an anchoring bias there where, you're thinking about this is who Immanuel Quickley is. He's a bench guard, who plays off the ball, off a dominant scorer like Jalen Brunson. But I think the Raptors have reimagined his role as something else. They don't see him as Lou Williams. They see him as evolving. And, this coaching staff has a talent of teaching basketball, teaching playmaking. And I believe that certain elements of this can be developed. I really believe that. So De'Aaron Fox has some off-ball tendencies as well, I think. You can make that argument. De'Aaron Fox has had some, is he a point guard? Is he not a point guard type of stuff? That's happened with him.
He's a hell of a finisher, though, at the rim. Hell of a finisher. I'm not saying I think we should or I think we will, but, geez, Fox and Barnes in the backcourt together, that is scary. That is very scary. However, is it worth sacrificing assets and potentially a top 5 pick this season? I say no. But, it's still fun to think about. Some of you just do in 2K and then have fun. But
true.
I would have liked another thing, just going back to tonight's game, like I feel like fourth quarter came around and I wish we would have seen a little bit more battle, especially when the game got tight. I wish we would have seen a little bit more battle. Maybe that's the bias in me.
That's definitely the bias in you. Do you realize that Portland this is the weirdest night in NBA sports history. Do you realize that Portland is currently whooping Denver?
That really was the score.
104-87.
You is Scoop playing? You think we can snipe him?
Possibly. Okay, Jokić has 24 points. Jamal Murray has 12 points. Michael Porter Jr. has 14 points, and the Portland Trailblazers are winning. Anthony Simons has 22. Shaden Sharp has 15. Denny Avdia off the bench has 19. And Tamani Kamara has 12. Jeremy Grant has 13. This is crazy. I can't believe what I'm even seeing here. 38-21 third quarter for Portland. Are these teams not aware that they're supposed to be tanking? Portland is literally behind us in the tankathon. So they can get a win here. That would be crazy.
Bruce Brown and a 2029 lottery protected first for Scoot Henderson. Who says no?
Bruce Brown and a lottery protected what first?
2029 first. Or top 10. Top 10 is a little bit more realistic.
Who says no? I think they say no just to save face, but that would actually be exceeding the value that he's actually worth right now.
I would love it as a reclamation project.
Yeah, me too.
Why not? I mean, I think that's what the Raptors need to do with this trade deadline. You need to find a way to get rid of Boucher. You need to find a way to get rid of Bruce Brown. You really need to evaluate Kelly Olynyk, because by the time this roster is competitive, what is he going to be like as a player? You need to evaluate Jakob Poeltl, and they're putting out smoke screens right now about we don't want to lose him. We don't want to lose him. That's what a front office says to try to raise someone's value before they trade him. They're just making sure it's there in the right spot. Other than that, just get, why not go get rehab projects? I mean, Darko's done it before. Look at Ochai.
Ochai is a great example of something that worked. Davion is a great example of one that didn't. So, I mean, more Ochais, less Davions.
I think
it's possible that Davion still works out. I don't know. Possibly.
I think it's more about who the player is. I think Ochai always had the potential there. He just wasn't believed in, to where someone like Davion was. I mean, he legit came in as a 6 man and just couldn't take advantage of his role.
Dude, if you look at Ochai's numbers, there was not a lot of encouraging data, and he was literally sinking on the other end of it. It's not like he was doing very well at all, in my opinion.
But once he got, look at what happened. I mean, dude's thriving now. Like, if we were coming into the year, I remember seeing Raptors pages on Instagram and X talking about after training camp, could we possibly cut, like, this was like July going into August, but like, could we possibly cut Ochai to make room for, I forget who, but could
I was one of those people who had totally given up on him. I just want to be clear about that. I love Ochai, but I totally messed up on that. I totally gave up on him.
And now he's doing this. Like, who would thought that he'd be shooting 43% from three at this point still?
Yeah, he's been amazing. He shot 50% tonight as well. He's permanent core. At this point, he's like young core. He's going to get an extension this year. I would be a little bit suspicious about giving him like too much money, because it's like I haven't seen it for a super long period of time. You're seeing it on a losing team against losing talent. I don't know.
Would you be giving him 3 year, $27 million?
3 years, $9 million per year, or 3 million, 27 per year?
No, $3 million, $9 million per year.
3 years, $9 million per year.
Yeah.
I think that's
fair.
I think that's pretty fair for a shooter who can defend, who's 24 years old. Yeah, he's worth that, I think. I again just worry about small sample size, right? How atrocious he was in the first 2-3 years is not to be understated. He was fully out of the league.
Yep.
He was gonna be out of the league. This was over for him, right? So this is a little bit like if right now Davion Mitchell suddenly started shooting 42% from three, and you're just like, okay, am I buying this? Now Ochai at least has a longer body of work as a shooter.
I also think much Ochai, he's processing the game, right? He's slowing it down to where I feel like last year,
yes,
it was 900 miles an hour. Everything was 900 miles an hour, right? He was like a bull in a china shop.
Sure.
Where this year, he's slowed down. He's reading plays in front of him. Tonight, that tough layup he made, I forget when, was it the beginning of the fourth? It was sometime in the fourth, I believe. But he made a layup over top of somebody. And like, that's just something where the average fan looks at it's like, oh, wow, he made a contested layup. Cool. But it's like, man, last year he would have put that thing off the top of the backboard because he would have been going 900 miles an hour. Where this year he makes it. So I'm not sitting here saying like, oh yeah, he's a 43% 3-point shooter for the rest of his career. But like, if he shot from now until he retires like 36-37% from three, it wouldn't surprise me. I say yes. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's not worth it. I think the length of the contract would be something that I would think about really hard, and I would have my doubts about how well he would age into that contract. I guess that's sort of where I'm at right now.
What is he right now? 24?
Yeah, he's 24.
Yeah, 24.
But it's just like I am haunted as an ex-Knicks fan. I am haunted by the ghost of Jerome James. Okay, so anytime someone puts up big stats in a contract year, I'm always like, but I don't know how I feel about this. So there's always that element of it where I'm a little bit freaked out by it, but I don't know.
I think it kind of has the Chris Boucher effect, though, where, I mean, on a deal like that, no matter how bad he's playing, he's still going to have value because he's a hustle player, right? Like, even in Boucher's worst year.
You think Chris Boucher has value?
last
the league
year,
disagrees with you fundamentally.
We could have dumped Boucher for a second-round pick if we wanted to.
I guarantee you, I confirmed this with this, that no one was offering a second-round pick for Chris Boucher.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. I asked someone who would be about as plugged in. Like, I don't have a direct line to Masai Ujiri. I don't know Masai Ujiri. I wish I did. I wish I did. I wish I knew Masai Ujiri. We'd be buds. We'd be friends. We care about a lot of the same stuff. We both believe in Scottie Barnes, but I don't know Masai Ujiri and Bobby Lester. But I talked to someone who would know pretty well. And yeah, there was nothing for Chris Boucher.
Really? I remember when the Bulls were willing to offer like a top 20 protected first round pick for him like 3 years ago. Should have taken it.
If that was the case, it sounds like it sounds like the front office that took Patrick Williams 4th overall, bro. That sounds exactly like what that front office would do.
It was a very fake first, but it was one we should have taken at the time. Hindsight's always 20/20 though.
Yeah.
It was coming off that playoff run where I think, what was it, game 6 against Philly at 26 points, and the Bulls won in that offseason. Well, it could have been a sign and trade is what it was, and the Raptors decided not to. Because he was a free agent. That's when we gave him that $11 million contract, because he had I don't know. I thought it was an overpay at the time. It's definitely an overpay now.
Remember the game that was a blowout?
Yeah, now it's close.
There's the blowout. That's hilarious, man. How do NBA teams do this, man? Like they're like, okay, we're gonna play hard for like 3 quarters, and then we're gonna pull the plug and let Nikola Jokić do whatever the hell he wants for the rest of the game. And it's funny to me. It's really funny to me.
I think Westbrook's the one that led him back. Led them in scoring back. Yeah,
13-2 4th quarter run. That's crazy.
Yeah, Jokić is still. I mean, not the plus minus is everything, but he's still -12.
So you're saying Jokić is cooked?
No, Jokić is indeed not cooked. I would give up my left and right testicle for Nikola Jokić to be on this team.
But he's a bum on defense. What do we do about that?
Live with it, because he's gonna put out like 60 points a game just from rebounds, assists, and points that he's gonna score himself.
Nikola Jokić puts out. Layne always with the hot takes. Nice. Love
Dude,
it.
I love Jokić so much.
You know, it's funny having the PC Giannis and Jokić debate, because literally my favorite player is a hybrid of those two players in a lot of senses. Like a lot of very, very smart basketball people have compared Scottie Barnes to both Jokić and Giannis. And yet there are some very dumb people in Toronto Raptor land who are hell-bent on comparing him to Aaron Gordon. So, you know, I can't wait for... I feel like every year I have to wait for the humble pie to be delivered to the face of the people that I want to smash this pie into. And like with the Raptors losing, it's never going to happen. But at some point, I feel like we will see like this iteration of the Raptors that's super fun to watch, and also winning basketball games, and also not tanking. And Scottie's going to be an all-star on that team. And at that point, I'm going to become insufferable. I will be so insufferable. My entire hard drive full of like idiotic clips of people saying he's not a go-to scorer, can't really score, Ace Bailey's better, blah, 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 RJ Barrett's better. I can't wait. I can't wait for that day. There will be comeuppance, and there will be, you know, shit that people will, yeah. You know, they say you should be humble in loss. That you should be graceful. I will not be graceful. I will be insufferable. I will be annoying as fuck. I will be relentless, but I will be self-aware about it. But I will be relentless as hell.
I hear you there. I'm not that I don't think that day will come. I'm just hoping that day comes. I'm really, really hoping that day comes. I think it could come as soon as next year.
Where's your faith meter at this point
for Scottie
on that day coming? Well, not just for Scottie being a good player, but the day that I'm talking about, where Scottie is legitimately a go-to scorer, drawing comparisons to the best players in the world, being put in top 15 conversations league-wide. Everyone's like, okay, we get it. This is a go-to scorer. This is a superstar. What's your faith meter on that happening? You can be honest. I don't care if it's at 1%. I don't care if it's 100%.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about like ETA. My faith meter, 85%.
Okay.
And I say that now. If you have asked me before the season, I probably would have said like 60. But the reason it's gone up so much is have you seen this man's handle?
Oh yeah, it's gotten a lot better. But he did low key deliver a kick pass to Ochai Agbaji. So, you know,
Okay, it goes down as an assist in the scorebook. That's all that matters.
did it count as an assist for
I
real
don't.
though?
I don't know. I knew it went down as 2 points on the board. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But if he would have came into this year and the handle hadn't developed as much, and he still was like not that he was ever lackadaisical. He just looked lackadaisical with the ball. And then this year, he just looks freaking focused every time he has the ball. Like that ball is on a string anywhere. And it's like, holy crap! If that developed overnight, what else can develop overnight?
Yeah, I don't think people have seen like the version of Scottie that that Brian's seeing, in practices. I don't think people have seen that version of him because there's been a lot of stop and go. There's been a lot of really young, inexperienced teammates. There's been a lot of shuffling of the deck. There's been a lot of 4-on-5 basketball. There's been a lot of clogged paint, congested paint. I mean, when people really, really break down the game, Grady Dick was guarding Cameron Johnson tonight. That's all you need to know. Okay. Like nothing is really of consequence here. Like I can't, oh my God, it's a 3-point game.
Yeah.
Oh, what a tank. What a tank. Y'all think the Raptors are the only ones. I've literally got this game up just so just so Raptor fans feel a little less alone. Can you imagine being a Portland Trailblazer fan right now, rooting for this W against MVP Nikola Jokić and watching your team basically like here, let me show you all the game cast. This is the craziest shit on earth. Just it's like the game DeAndre Jordan makes a 1-foot hook shot. That's what's sinking you. My goodness. Okay, here we go. Where the hell is it? Gamecast.
Like they saw the Raptors lost tonight. It's like, oh shit, we can't win. We can't go 2 games back.
This is like, yeah, this is pretty much Tesla right now. Okay, so game flow. Yeah, there. The Nuggets stop scoring, and then the Blazers stop scoring. The Blazers have just scored 2 points. They've scored 3 points. It's a 16. They scored 2 more. Okay, cool. 7 minutes to go, 5-point game. Cool. Okay. I mean, you can't make it that obvious. You need to lose. You need to keep it a little less obvious than that. But damn, like this is a tank if I've ever seen one. So, I don't know, man. At some point though, like you're gonna have a battle between 2 teams, and they're both gonna have the same objective, which is lottery balls, and it's just gonna be difficult, right? So you're gonna bump into this Brooklyn team a couple weeks from now, January 1st or 2nd, whenever the hell they play Brooklyn next, and they could have completely traded away Nick Claxton and Cameron Johnson by that point, and they'd be resting Cam Thomas. So it's like, good luck. You're gonna be facing Ben Simmons and Noah Clowney, So that's like.
They'll be facing Grady Dick and Jacoby Walter at that point. So, I mean,
it's more than enough.
It is more than enough. I love them both so much. It sucks to think in 3 years we might be having the conversation on which one we can keep and which one we have to trade.
Why?
That's the part that sucks. Salary cap implications. I mean, you got to think if you get Cooper Flagg, you're going to need money. Or Ace Bailey, Ron Harper, and they work out. You know what I mean? You're going to be thinking about, these guys are going to be up for a rookie max extension. And then it's going to come down to money at that point.
You can always move them before that day comes, right? Like,
yeah, you can. But I'm saying I hope they're on this team. They're both still on this team in 3 years, I guess is my thing.
Well, more than likely, I think Jacoby projects to be more of like a 25, 22 million extension guy if he works out, as opposed to a max. If he ends up being a max player, damn. Wow, you really cooked with the 19th overall pick. But it tends to be the guys who get picked a little bit lower in the draft continue to suffer a bit of a lower contract value.
Fine by me.
Right? Because Cade Cunningham certainly wasn't playing like a max player when he got his max extension. He's playing closer to that now, but he wasn't playing like one then. So you look at that and you're like, okay, like if you take Grady Dick and you extend him at 25 million, you take Jacoby Walter 22 million, that's 2 players that combined for a max contract basically, as opposed to one. I think that would be closer to the value.
I hear you. I hear you. How much money do we have on the books this summer? Like, hypothetically, if we just let Bruce Brown walk, we don't trade him for anything. We don't take other assets in return, or take a Alcatraz contract in return with assets. How much money do we have? Because I think Boucher's gone. That's what, 11. Bruce is gone. That's 23. So that's at least 34. Or am I just making shit up?
No, you're good. And so, let's see. This is probably not the best way to look at this. Signed years 2024. Okay. So this is, what the fuck? This is not the most intuitive way to look at this at all. Hang on a sec. Let me just look up hoop site salaries. That's probably the best way to look at this, but then it's not going to let me view it because of the ad blocker. Shit. Hoop site salary. Never mind, got it.
Also, wow.
Well, you clipped out for a
Was
second.
he out? My fault. I'm sorry. Why didn't Fernando play tonight? Was he out?
No, but a lot of people were asking about him. I think it's more because you're exhibiting Kelly Olynyk.
Do you think he's on his way out?
Kelly Olynyk?
Yeah.
It could be.
That sucks, man.
Why? I mean, you could also keep him around. He's great
No,
for team development and chemistry and all that shit, but yeah.
Not that I'm like married to the idea of Kelly Olynyk. I just think he's a good dude. And the idea of him is great, but I'm not married to it. I guess I shouldn't have said that sucks like that, but yeah. I don't know. I had a lot of I was really excited about him when we got him from the Jazz.
So was I, but then I realized he was 33 years old, and players do decline right around that age. So I think you got more of like a theory of a prototype as opposed to the actual prototype.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, this is what the contract situation looks like next summer, and you got 151 million on the books next summer, which is a lot of money for a team that is really bad. Now, Davion Mitchell expire, let him expire, right? Garrett Temple expires. Bruno Fernando probably not on this team next month. Jonathan Mobo, super inexpensive contract, right? That's a value deal if I ever saw one. Kelly Olynyk, big time expiring, 13.4 million. Who were we bidding against with that contract? I'll never understand. Bruce Brown comes off.
I was just about to say that. Who the hell were we bidding against that we had to give him 36 million over 3 years? I don't know.
It's not 36 million over 3 years. It was 26 million over 2 years.
My fault. I had another year.
Yeah, it was 26.2 or something. Anyways, and then you got RJ Barrett on a 2-year deal. He's looking like he's living up to this deal. He has not lived up to this deal. Bruce Brown has not lived up to this deal. Jakob Poeltl is around worth 19 million. I think he's worth around that. Might be worth a little bit less, a little bit more, depending on who you ask. Scottie, I think next year will be worth his max contract for sure. Davion Mitchell will probably, I don't know what he'll be worth. Grady Dick, more than sufficient value here. As long as he's on his rookie deal, I think he'll continue to be worth very, very much. And then, you got Ochai Agbaji already on the books next year for 6.3. Mm-hmm. And then you'll extend him this summer and then add on to that. So probably you take the 6.3, you take the, are you hearing audio interference on my end? Is there a little bit of like a buzz?
Is it me? I don't hear anything.
I think it's me because every time I'm talking, I'm hearing a buzz.
I'm not hearing anything on your end. It's clear for me.
Can people let me know in the chat if there's like a little bit of a buzz or a hissing noise every time I'm talking? I like to monitor my audio, and it's driving me kind of crazy at this point. Yeah, so I think Ochai has been a huge steal this year, and next year I think he's like still a really huge steal at that value.
Yeah, I believe so too. And like I said, you give him $9 million for 3 years this offseason. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it at all. Boucher's gone, Brown's gone. You pretty much have a max contract slot open. We're not a max destination. Plus, we shouldn't be looking to bring in a guy on a max anyway. So hypothetically, let's say all works out. You get a top 3 pick. You get whoever, right, out of those 3. Not even going to say name. You just get whoever out of those 3. Then they pan out. I mean, that's where that money's probably going to be allocated. Is what
Mhm.
I'm trying to say when I was saying you probably have to choose between Jacoby or Grady in 3 years. That's what I meant by that. It wasn't coming from a place of ignorance or like comparing them, right? It was just coming from a
Mhm.
place. Well, I don't know how, unless we have like a 50-55 win season in the next 2 years, I don't know how willing MLSE is going to be to go into the luxury tax to keep both those guys.
Jacoby and Grady.
Yeah,
I think they've always said that when it's time for championships, they will open the pocketbooks. And when it comes to extending the lifeline of a young core, you got to.
I hope so.
Like, you fundamentally have to.
I hope
You
so.
have to open up the pocketbooks.
I don't know how this team. I don't know how Scottie in his prime looks without a guy like Grady Dick. I'm not saying exactly Grady Dick, but a guy like Grady Dick. Like Grady Dick has potential to be JJ Redick on steroids.
I
Like
think
Grady
he's
Dick has
so much different than that. But yeah,
he's so. I mean, like shooter that does so much more. Like his defensive
I don't
upside.
think he's a shooter. That's the crazy part. I think he's a scorer. I think the fact that he's white makes him a shooter for most people, but I don't think he's a shooter. I think he's a scorer. I think he's a complete 3-level basketball player. And I think he's like a very complete one. I think he scores around the rim really well. I think the pull up, mid range, in between game, there's got a little bit of a wiggle to his game.
You know who he reminds me of?
I hope you don't say a white guy.
No, he reminds me of Jamal Crawford. But he does.
Wow.
He does.
Okay.
He
You
does.
went completely the other way. Okay.
He does.
Jamal Crawford. Please help me understand this one.
The way he moves off ball, like Jamal used to run miles, especially in his prime. He ran miles. Grady runs the same way. Now their shot doesn't look the same, right? The way they score all the time doesn't look the same, but the
Okay.
pump fakes, the step throughs, the way they move, that's who it reminds me of. Now Grady is probably 2 to 3 years away from being able to go ISO like Jamal could.
You could do a little bit of ISO right now.
He is doing a little bit of ISO right now, but he's not hitting those ISOs consistently like I think he can in the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, dude's 20 years old, and he's showing this much flash so far. I know I'm gonna get. I know people are gonna think I'm crazy. Just watch early Jamal Crawford. Just watch him, and you'll be like,
it's okay. Whenever you compare a white player to a non-white player, especially one as clearly white as Grady, you will always get like a lot of people being like, "What? That's why I went in the middle and compared him to Drazen Petrovic, because people were not ready for who I actually want to compare him to. But actually, no, I actually do feel there's a lot of Drazen Petrovic in his game. I really do.
For sure. And I get it's crazy. Just watch the way that Jamal Crawford got easy buckets early in his career. It's the same way Grady's getting easy buckets.
Yeah, David C is confused. Grady is white? Question mark.
White chocolate.
True. He's not really though. Right, his game definitely is not that. I think we all knew one hooper who was a little bit like that. Grady is like that.
Grady's albino. We'll say he's albino.
Dude, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're those guys. Like, you know who I'm talking about. If you've ever hooped, you understand. Like, there's those dudes from Iowa that are like white hoopers, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like that white kid on the all black AAU team, and he's one of the crew. You know what I mean?
Tyler Hero, Kyle Guy.
Tyler Hero is a perfect example. Tyler Hero is one with the culture, one with the lingo, one with the family.
You know what's funny? This is not me saying this. But there was a video that he put out a few years ago, and Jimmy Butler was like, "Yeah, I knew Tyler Hero was one of us when he couldn't swim." I was like, "Bro, what are we doing, Jimmy? What are we doing, Jimmy?" But Hero's that guy. I like Tyler. Pritchard's got that same vibe. Kyle Guy. Who are other like just? I mean, obviously not Matthews, but there's just a select few white guys in the league where it's like, yeah, they were that one white dude on that all black AAU team, and they were probably the scariest dude on the team. There's dudes that are like that. I have a friend that plays at Toledo right now, basketball up at Toledo. Oh, I'm sorry, I think you're muted. Or am I the one that's muted? I can't hear you. Oh, well, I can't hear you. I can see you moving. I just can't hear you. My fault. I thought I was going crazy for a minute, guys. I was like, damn. I made that. I repeated that joke that Jimmy Butler said, and he kicked me out.
Okay. Can y'all hear me now?
You're good.
Okay. That was weird. What the hell happened? Yeah.
I thought you got mad at me for that risky joke. That's why I had to say that. I didn't say it. Jimmy Butler said it. But I mean, it's just there's guys like that. Like I was saying, I have a friend up at Toledo who plays basketball. And he's like, dude, we'll play like these FCS schools, like for football, like there will be FCS, and we'll play like D2 schools in preseason,
Mhm.
and the best player on the other team will just be like some white dude from like Nebraska, like random, like kids playing ball in like Oregon, like some small D1 in Oregon or some
Mhm.
D school in Oregon, and this kid like crosses half court, and our scouting report is put a body on him.
Right.
It's funny as hell how that works.
Absolutely. Man, this game is coming down to the wire. I'm gonna put it on the screen just because I've been talking about it the whole way through. It is down to 3 points with 2 minutes to go. Who do you think wins this?
There's 3 minutes, 2 points. Nuggets.
No, to 1 minute 46. 1 minute 46 seconds remaining. Shead and Sharp just missed a shot. Nuggets possession, 3-point game. This is either going to overtime or the Nuggets are losing at the buzzer. It's going to be a close one, though.
I think the Nuggets are going to win, but I want Portland to win because that just helps our ping pong balls.
There goes your 3.
Boom.
I wonder who hit it. Probably Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray 3. Porter 3. Who hit it?
Russell Westbrook.
No.
No, I don't know. I'm guessing.
Ron will be never shut up if Russell Westbrook hit a 3 with the game on the line.
No, Jamal Murray, step back 3-pointer.
There we go.
Westbrook is 2 for 4 tonight from 3 with 19 points, 8 for 12 from the field. Look at him.
Nuggets up by 2. Jesus Christ. Wow.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook just blocked Simon's layup, and I'm waiting for Michael Porter Jr. made a dunk, dunked the ball. Damn, must have been 3 seconds after the block there was a dunk, so it must have been one of those things where it ricocheted and then Aaron Gordon picked it up and just chucked it down court.
Damn. Please just call a timeout. Regroup. Guys, Cooper Flagg, what's going on? I wonder if they just invite Cooper Flagg to the timeouts at this point. Because, yeah, at this point, this shit's over. I mean, I don't want to say this is over because, Simon's Sharp. It's not like you're going to be like, hey, guys, I need you to really miss this shot. But you're probably going to right now design a 2-pointer. You're probably gonna be like, no threes. Watch Sharp just abandon the game plan and just shoot for 3. I think this would be a great time for Scoot Henderson to take some practice, some target practice.
Hell yeah. What do you think about Chauncey Billups as a coach?
I'm not impressed.
I'm not impressed either. And it's hard to judge him because the knee-jerk reaction is like, well, he's never had a fair shot. Like, true. But do you really want to give this man a roster that's ready to go be in the playoffs? I don't know. I don't know if I feel that way. Like, if someone was like, what do you think about Darko as a coach? Like, well, we don't know yet, but I'd be willing to give him a roster that's ready to go play playoff basketball, right? Like, I think that's just the difference there. Same thing with Jordy Fernandez. I feel the same way about him.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm not a big Chauncey guy. Not a big Chauncey guy. As a coach, as a player, beautiful.
Ex-Raptor. You know what was the most interesting thing was watching Chauncey Billups at Vince Carter's, retirement jersey retirement, not jersey
Yeah.
retirement, Hall of Fame induction, and saying, and him, Tracy, and Vince all standing there and being like, we could have been teammates, like we were all there. Like, and Vince is like, oh my God, you're right. Like, it's almost like they forgot. It's almost like the stuff of nightmares. It's like the shit that haunts you. Because if I told you in 2001 you could have had Chauncey Billups, Vince Carter, and Tracy McGrady for the next 10 years.
This was 2 years before I was conceived. And obviously I know the stories on like what we got for Tracy McGrady, like what happened, like what the media wants to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But you were around at the time. How the hell did we lose him?
Tracy McGrady?
Yeah. Like I'm sorry, this is gonna be so boring for the chat, but I want to know. I want to hear from your point of view because I know you're not gonna bullshit me.
I think a lot of people are probably a little bit confused about that as well. I mean, it was a combination of things. Number one, wanting to go home. I think number two was this idea, at least from Vince's perspective, that Tracy felt a little bit overshadowed here. I don't necessarily think the Raptors handled him well in terms of how big a piece it was. Like, I don't think the vision of, hey, you two could be great together was necessarily presented to him. I think it was always presented as, this is Vince's team and you're here for the ride. Thanks a lot. Now, Tracy's a huge reason why Vince was even in Toronto. He told Vince Carter allegedly before the draft, I'm going to make sure the Raptors draft you, et cetera, et cetera. And then the Raptors did. So, Vince is on record after saying that he could have been the guy here. Like, I wouldn't have been opposed to that. And, it could have happened here for him. But the media here was so quick to basically push Vince as this like Michael Jordan type that I think they clearly missed. I remember very clearly how Jack Armstrong covered Tracy McGrady's games. I remember very clearly how they talked about Tracy McGrady. They did not talk about him like he was a superstar in the making. I think most people were genuinely shocked when they saw him in Orlando and saw how much he blossomed when the basketball was put in his hands. And I think there were some push and pull and tugging with, it's a tie game with 23 seconds to go. What did I tell you? They're going to go for a 2. So predictable, these tanking teams, man. And now they're going to play really shit defense and allow the Nuggets to win. So, yeah. So Carbon saying T-Mac was jealous of Vince. I don't think it was jealous. I think he believed that he was a franchise level player and he deserved to have a team that was built around him. I don't think that you would necessarily be upset with a player who thought that about themselves. You know what I mean? I certainly was not upset that Tracy McGrady thought that. It's just in hindsight when you think about what you were deprived of that you get upset and you're like, man, I really wish that, we had seen a full, but it's hard. I don't know. The Raptors kind of babied Tracy McGrady. There was some talk about maybe Butch Carter feeling like he wasn't physically developed enough to play major load in the NBA and he wanted his body to come along slowly because he was a little bit slight of frame. And of course, then he goes to Orlando, plays 42 minutes a night under Doc Rivers, and then ends up having chronic back issues for the rest of his career. So go figure who was right, who was wrong. Did he maybe run a little bit before he was ready to run? So I think that's why development staffs are paid what they're paid. And ultimately, I think, it sucks because I think I liked Vince more. I 100% think when you look back at the plays, you would agree that Tracy was more talented. Mm-hmm. Vince was better. Vince was also older, I think, by a bit. But Tracy was more talented. The only player in Raptors history that's ever reminded me of Tracy McGrady is Scottie Barnes. That's it.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I appreciate that because I have absolutely no clue. And I know how ravenous the media is up here with every, like, they try to treat basketball like they do hockey, right? Before I was a big time, before I became a basketball fan back in like 2012, I was always a hockey fan, hockey household.
Okay.
And, even, well, not hockey household per se, but like it was like football and hockey, right? And baseball. But, it was like those three. And when my dad, who has no connection to social media whatsoever, is like, man, those Toronto reporters, like they're just about as Philly and New York. That's coming from him, who has no connection to the outside world. And now that I step in it, obviously for the past 12 years, and it's like, holy shit, Toronto's got some coffins laying around somewhere. They got some skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know from who. I don't know who pissed off who. but they got some stuff to figure out because the way some of these dudes get reported on is absolutely insane. And it's not just the Raptors. I mean, I mean, you're in touch with the media up there. Like, if you see some of the stuff they put out about the Maple Leafs, it's absolutely insane. Just
I genuinely, I'm not a hockey fan. I would love to learn a little bit more about the game from someone who's experienced and can tell me a little bit about the game maybe at some point when I have some time. I've never really been a fan of it. So I'm not really sure about the puckhead media that I often hear. The only context that I have about the Canadian media as it pertains to hockey is how much they talk about hockey when they should be talking about basketball during a basketball segment, like how they'll tie something back into hockey. It's always the most odd thing, right? Like, yeah.
you know,
Oh Lord,
I hear
the
you.
the Nuggets just lost.
Well,
Oh, the tank is over. So Nikola Jokic loose ball foul, Nuggets challenge, and then Shaden Sharp made 2 free throws prior to that.
Nuggets have
Ooh.
24 seconds and a timeout.
Nuggets have possession?
Yeah. What is there? 24 seconds left, correct?
Yep, 23.5.
Yeah, Shaden Sharp just made 2 free throws, and Nuggets just took a timeout. They have possession.
I thought, okay, cool. Okay, so they still have a chance.
Yeah, they challenged the Jokic loose ball foul, and they lost. So Shaden Sharp to the line for 2, and then that one where you said they're going to run a 2-point play, Jokic fouled Simons at the rim, and
they
Simons
just scored. Jokic just made a 5-foot shot. Nuggets call timeout. Sorry, the Blazers call timeout.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Without even watching this game, if I can predict how this game is going to go, I predict that this is going to overtime. The Blazers will take some sort of cockamamie shot, and probably they'll make or miss it. I don't know. But they probably, run it down to the absolute buzzer and then take the final shot to make sure they actually get the final shot. And those shots can be very inefficient.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I was a coach, I would think about this. Would I explore the idea? No, I don't think I would. I was going to say, would I explore the idea if in this situation, would I explore the idea of going like 2 seconds early and leaving that 2 seconds on the clock just to kind of fake out the defense as opposed to making myself so predictable? Or would I potentially run basically a backcourt play, like where I spread the entire defense across the floor and just scramble everything, switch everything, and just freak everyone out and try to get a backdoor cut, kind of like what Spoelstra did? Because again, sometimes when you have 16.8 seconds and you're just sitting there and getting very stagnant with the basketball and you're just like, wait, now go, it's the worst, especially when you call a timeout to run that type of play. So like, everybody knows what you're about to do. You're going to set the screen with like 3 seconds to go, 4 seconds to go, and you're going to come off the screen and you're going to maybe swing the pass to, a shooter who's moving off the ball, or you're going to have the ball handler take the shot. And it's like, it just becomes too stagnant at that point. And I feel like the percentages go down. Would love to do some research on this, but I would be curious about like if you would have just a better shot of trying to score like a second and a half earlier than trying to clip it to the final buzzer. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense, because what I see often when teams try to do stuff like that is that somebody goes to, like, just a half second too early and it throws the whole thing off.
Yeah, because you have to think about it. Like, the clock keeps running until the ball hits the rim, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes you'll take a shot and these guys are literally trying to get it so that it's like at the final buzzer. Oh, Anthony Simons makes the shot at the buzzer. Anthony Simons makes the shot at the buzzer.
Wow. Good for the Raptors, man. Good for the Raptors. We're already on tank watch in December. It's crazy, but hey, like I said, I'm for it. As long as they actually commit to it. Like, we can't go on like a 2-game, 3-game winning streak in January and be like, all right, everyone's playing now. Like, no, that can't be the way this goes.
That's insane. Do you realize on the same night that Utah beats Detroit, Washington beats Charlotte, that Portland beats Denver? What is this night?
Beautiful.
And the Brooklyn Nets beat the Raptors. Not like that's that surprising, but like the Raptors were favored coming into that game. The Chicago Bulls also beat the Boston Celtics.
LaMelo shot 18 threes tonight, missed 15. Wow.
Okay, consider this. Who were the favorites coming into this game? Hold on, this entire freaking slate, because I got to look at the full score because it's a very busy night in the NBA. Okay, here clearly the Lakers, the away team is up 13 with 27 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. They're winning this game. No heroics from De'Aaron Fox is going to change that. They were not favored coming into this game. The Pistons were favored. The Jazz won. The Thunder were favored. They won. The Wizards were not favored. The Hornets were favored. And the Wizards won. The Chicago Bulls were 14.5 point, underdogs on the road and went into Boston and beat them. The Nets were 3-point underdogs and came into Toronto and beat them. Yo, what the hell? The Pelicans obviously were supposed to lose by a lot, and that's fine. But this was supposed to be a competitive game, and it ended up being a 50-point blowout. The Grizzlies and the Warriors.
Yeah.
And San Antonio was not supposed to beat the Hawks, I don't think. I don't remember exactly, but I don't think that was supposed to happen. So this is just nuts. And obviously, New York was not supposed to beat Minnesota, and Denver was not supposed to beat the Portland Trailblazers. So basically, the underdog won. Oh my God. And Indiana was not supposed to beat. Yikes. I don't promote sports betting, but I'll tell you this much. If you had taken the underdog on every single one of these, like ones that actually won, you could have turned probably would have turned $1 into like $1,000. That's nuts. Like, this is the weirdest night in the NBA. From the perspective of who was supposed to win and who was supposed to lose tonight, this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah. And Tyrese had a stinker too. Well, not a stinker, but geez. How the mighty have fallen. I would never thought he would have regressed like this.
Well, it just goes to show you in a league that is increasingly going towards three-point shooting. Like David C saying this guy is promoting gambling, right? Who's promoting gambling? I'm promoting gambling. Are you nuts? The last person in the world to promote gambling. But what I am saying is that it is absolutely insane for the team that is supposed to lose 3 times in a night. For like 6 of them to lose. Sorry, the team that's supposed to win losing 6 times, especially when the most of the teams that won were on the road. I'm willing to say, from a purely statistical point of view, this might be one of the weirdest nights in sports history. Capital Gain saying, not that weird. 3-point shooting is the reason. I think it might be that. But did the teams that won just shoot abnormally hot from 3? I mean, I'd be curious. Okay, let's see here. So, no. The Brooklyn Nets shot abysmally from 3. They shot 23% from 3. The Raptors actually shot better. If we're talking about the Chicago Bulls, did they shoot way better from 3? I think, yeah, that would explain this game, definitely. Because 36.5% versus 25% on high volume is a huge swing. Okay. Utah shot very, very well from 3. I was watching the first quarter of that game before the Raptors game, so that was quite crazy. Team stats. Yeah, Utah shot 50% from 3. They could not miss. Washington, I'm going to assume, was another hot shooting game. So Washington ends up shooting 40% from 3, and Charlotte goes cold 18% from 3. Yep. That's really what it is. Because again, in a normal night, there's no chance in hell that teams this bad can beat teams this good. But the 3-point shot is the great equalizer, which is also why when you look at a team like OKC losing to Milwaukee in the in-season tournament, it doesn't swing me as much. Although OKC is known to go cold once in a while, it doesn't swing me as much because I'm not necessarily like, in a 7-game series, this is irrelevant. I don't think you're shooting that cold for 4 games in a 7-game series, but I don't know.
Just a thought real quick. I've been thinking that the Raptors do need a true backup point guard. They do. Like when push comes to shove, when this team wants to be a winning team, they do. I think really, I don't know what it would take to get him. I'm curious on what the idea in your head on what the market for him would be. But I think the guy for the job is Collin Sexton. I think he fits everything that you need in a backup guard for this team.
Collin Sexton for the Toronto Raptors.
Yes.
What would you have to give up to get him? And
God,
why
no.
do you like him? And do you like him defensively?
I think he gives you the same thing Davion Mitchell does, plus the scoring, and better off ball. And he's not. He's not. I mean, he's not the greatest 3-point shooter in the world, but he makes them. Right? I think he shoots 35% from three, maybe 36, right? And finishes well at the rim. I think he's averaging 5-6 assists this year. So I mean, he's serviceable, right? Like we're not asking for an all-star off the bench, but I think he'd be more than what you need at the backup guard position. I would love to see that guy when this team's going to be a winning team. Him as our backup guard. I also think he brings that dog mentality, kind of like a guy like Scottie, and that's what they're looking for in a guy like Davion. But Davion just doesn't have it to where I feel like Collin Sexton does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like him and Shead.
You think he's that level of defender though?
Out of all point guards, I think he's probably like a 75th to 80th percentile defender. I would say, like all the point guards in the league, I'd put him there. Like I think Collin Sexton is what Jamal Shead can be, if that makes sense. But I think Sexton's got a little bit more height to him, has a little bit more size to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get it. You'd have to. I mean, he'd be like a $18 to $20 million guy, right?
Right.
He wouldn't be able to get him for cheap. But just watching that guy, man, I'm telling you, like that is what. Like, could you imagine a lineup of not a lineup, but like a backcourt of Scottie and Collin Sexton? Like that is terrifying for opposing guards.
How much of that are you able to replicate with Immanuel Quickley though?
I don't know if you can get the same defensive ball pressure.
Mm.
I'm not saying IQ's a trash defender by any means. He's not. He's a more than serviceable defender. I think Sexton's defense is overrated. I don't think he's a first-team defense type of guy like he was marketed as coming into the NBA. But, I mean, just because it's overrated that he's not first-team defense doesn't mean he's still not a top 15 to 20 defender at his position.
Top 15 to 20 and kind of undersized, though. So, like, when you're comparing him to a Anthony Black, you know, or Jalen Suggs, how do you compare the undersizedness to it?
It just comes down to hustle and heart at that point, right? Like, I know it's kind of cringy to say, but that's really what it comes down to is just hustle and heart. And Sexton's been the guy his whole career, like, no matter what team he's been on, right? When the Cavs were trying to win before he got hurt. And now on the Jazz, even though they're a tanking team, the dude still hustles his ass off. Like, no plays off type of guy. Like, he's cut from the same cloth that Shead is, right? He's cut from the same cloth that Scottie is. And I think a bench guard like that with more experience. And what I wouldn't want to see is Shead getting pushed out of the lineup if he comes in. Or
Would
if
it shock you if I told you that Crafted NBA has Collin Sexton as one of the worst defenders in the league?
Do you maybe think it's because he's playing out of position right now, or the defenders around him aren't good enough? He's having to pick up slack for a guy like Jordan Clarkson.
Certainly possible. I watched him in Cleveland. I did not see a great defender.
I didn't think he was that great early in his career too, but I think he's got a lot better in Utah. But I think he's having to pick up slack for he's playing around. Like, I'd love to see him on a team like, I mean, you take Derek White off the Boston Celtics, you put Collin Sexton in his place. Yes, they're worse. How much worse are they?
Again, like, I haven't seen. Okay, while I do not believe that analytics pick up everything defensively, at least, I am a big critic of defensive analytics. I have never seen a player in my life flash defensive box plus minus every single year. I'm curious about his EPM. Hang on one second. Collin Sexton EPM. I admittedly, I feel like a casual. I haven't watched a ton of Collin Sexton this year. I just haven't. So I don't know how he's doing. It's just my impressions of him in the times that I've watched him is highly overrated. But let me check here.
He strikes me, and I'm not saying he will have the same revival as a career, but he strikes me as a guy like Kyle Lowry. The older he gets, the better he might get. Right, the more mature he might get, because I feel like he came into the NBA and he wasn't.
Is this possible because you're in Ohio and he played for the Cavaliers that
Not
you
at
just might be seeing him a little bit differently? That's not possible.
Not at all. Not at all. He went to Alabama. I do not like Alabama. So
okay, cool. So he, according to Dunks and Threes EPM model, he has a negative 2.1 defensive estimated plus minus. That is terrible. He is genuinely bad. I've never heard of anyone other than in college refer to him as a good defender. Now, again, there have been a lot of good guard defenders in college. Malachi Flynn was a great guard defender in college. He was a terrible defender in the NBA.
I wish he would play March Madness that year.
Yeah, so I think there's like very few guys that have converted at that size. I don't see Collin Sexton as a great defender. I've never seen him participate in a great defense. If nothing else, I think Immanuel Quickley is a vastly better defender than him at the NBA level. If you look at Immanuel Quickley's analytics, he was a 65th percentile defender to 70th percentile defender in New York. That's very solid.
Is there any you could put Quickley's defensive metrics to Sexton's defensive metrics side by side? I just want to see how far apart it is by chance. Or like go to their basketball reference and like put their stats side by side, because obviously Quickley's the better player. I just want to see like how far the gap is.
Okay, one sec. I'm gonna check. So Immanuel Quickley hasn't played enough this year, but maybe it'll show us his last year's analytics, and hopefully that will help. But yeah, it will 100% show Quickley as a better defender, and I genuinely think like I have a lot of issues with Quickley as a defender, but here you go. So it shows Collin Sexton as a 0 percentile defender. You can see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's Immanuel Quickley, 50th percentile.
Yeah, it's just that much better. But how much is that at their position, or is that just overall in the league?
It is for their position. It is for their role, for their position. So, Immanuel Quickley, he's a defensive off-ball wing in terms of his positional role, and that factors into how they see him, right? So, I mean, you could even make a case that Collin Sexton's a better offensive player than Immanuel Quickley. So if he's also a better defensive player than Immanuel Quickley, then he's straight up a better basketball player than Immanuel Quickley, and I just don't think he is. So,
no.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'd like to experiment. Maybe that's more of the reclamation point guard project, or reclamation.
I don't think Collin Sexton needs to be reclaimed. I think he's a fantastic at what he is. I just don't think what he is a superstar or star or whatever. I don't even disagree with you that he would fit in really nicely in Toronto. I think some of his synergy with Scottie would be great. I was a little bit caught off guard when you started talking about him as a great defender, because I've just never seen him as one in the NBA. But I could be wrong. I'll watch more. If you're saying he's a great defender, I'll watch some Utah games and see what I see. But yeah,
he was 40-50. I mean, he's 48.6 from the field, 44 from three, and 88 from the line this year. I mean, 6 on 16 a game. I mean, if I don't know. You're right. You're 100% right on him defensively. Maybe I'm seeing ghosts out there when I watch on the Jazz. But
who am I pointing to right now?
Actually, let me tap back on the screen.
What do you think this is?
Who do I think that is?
Yep. Who do you think?
Oh, it's Fred VanVleet.
Oh yeah. What gave it away? Rockford, Illinois?
Yeah, Rockford, Illinois, and the fact that he's 6'2". But no, never mind. That's something else. 6'2". I was about to say they're lying on his basketball reference or whatever that is.
Yeah. No, Fred's a really smart defender, and positionally he's about as good as a 6-foot guard is going to get. Him, CP3, Rajon Rondo, those are the guys. Kyle Lowry, those are the really good defenders at that point. Now, obviously, people will point to the time where Fred VanVleet got blown by when his hip was hurt or whatever. But Fred VanVleet remains a very solid defender. I'm also very curious if Dennis Schroder is like very, very well represented on the analytics, because he has been widely represented as a very, very good defender per analytics, and I'm curious if he actually is.
He had a whopping 5 points, was 1 for 9 in the first half in his Warriors debut tonight.
Yeah, and they got blown up by 50. He is the leader. Here you go, 15th percentile. So again, I don't put too much stock into this. I have literally seen defenders put on these analytic models and they're 17th percentile or 18th percentile defender. And I'm like, I think they're probably closer to 30th, but I've never seen a 0 percentile defender and be like, nah, I think they're 90th or 80th. I definitely don't see that. And if he's top 20 as a point guard, he would be like 75th percentile to 70th percentile defender. So I don't think so. I think he tries hard. That's what I've noticed. He tries hard, but he's not very effective.
He tries hard and he's efficient. I think that's what kind of gives it for me. Like, is there any way where, real quick, I know I've taken up a lot of time, could you put Collin Sexton this year next to Dennis Schroder this year? I just want to see I want to see the gap because, in my opinion, I think Collin Sexton's been the better player this year. Which is saying a lot.
Collin Sexton has been roughly equivalent to Dennis Schroder this year, but a better player offensively.
Okay.
But worse defensively. That's Collin Sexton. That's Dennis Schroder.
Gosh, I don't know. I just feel like
the gap is really efficiency, shot quality. Look at the shot quality for Collin Sexton. Look at the true shooting. Look at the free throw rate, and look at the load and creation. Like that's amazing. And then when you flash to Dennis, the load and creation are still there, but the efficiency is lower. I mean, 5 or 6 Brooklyn Nets are north of 60% true shooting, which is nuts. You know, and I mean, some of them are bigs, run and jump bigs where it's supposed to be, but Ben Simmons is north of 60% true shooting, I'm pretty sure, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's been a lot of efficiency, and we saw the Brooklyn Nets tonight, you know, it's not a one-trick pony. Dennis Schroder gets a lot of credit when things go right. He gets none of the blame when things go wrong. He's a media darling, you know, when it comes to that kind of stuff. We saw it with the Raptors. He cozied up immediately to Will Lou and Alex Wong and the Raptors show. He's calling it every week. He's talking about himself as the fucking leader and all that stuff. And then boom, gets shipped out for nothing, you know, but like, he's not the solution. Like the idea today, when I was on Raptor Spaces at halftime, people were like, they don't even have Dennis Schroder. They have nobody. And it's like, respectfully, Cameron Johnson is worth like 150 Dennis Schroders. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, these people don't know basketball, man. Cameron Johnson's great. And I actually, like, you know, I talked a lot about him this offseason and his synergy with Scottie. You talk about Collin Sexton, Cameron Johnson looked brilliant next to Scottie Barnes. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm looking towards the next year and a half when this team is really going to be focused on winning basketball games. Right?
Sure.
And I think if I'm really rooting for Shead, but I mean, the time's not on his side in terms of development, right? You can't be a 4 points per game guy 2 years from now. I think
he won't have the longest window, and that's something that I've had to be talked into because, of course, in my mind, Jamal Shead can do no wrong, and Jamal Shead is worth like 15 years of development. But I understand that, you know, smaller guards have a limited shelf life in the NBA. There's a shorter leash. You have to basically be a perfect basketball player. He's not a perfect basketball player. He has shooting gaps. He's older, so he's 23 years old. But man, he's just the type of guy you win with, right? So he'll endear himself to the coaching staff. They'll root for him. But at some point, if he can't convert on 37% threes, it's not going to matter what he does. And so to everybody out there who thinks I'm hating on Davion, I'm keeping the same energy for Jamal Shead. If the weaknesses are the same, the outcome will be exactly the same. The difference is Davion's 26 and Jamal is 23, and he's already processing the court, I think, a lot better than Davion. You know, today when I saw Jamal Shead check in, I didn't realize Davion was out because I wasn't really paying attention to the injury report before the game. And I was just like, oh, it finally happened. He jumped Davion Mitchell in this in the rotation, but no, Davion was out today. RJ was out today. I mean, so to the people out there who really believe Davion Mitchell is legit backup point guard, you were not only missing a legit backup point guard, you were also missing a legit star in RJ Barrett and a legit top 10 center in Jakob Poeltl. I wish the same people who cap for these dudes would keep the same energy when they're out. You know what I mean? Like, on the one hand, you are a 7-20 team with apparently an all-star in RJ Barrett, apparently, you know, a sub all-star in Immanuel Quickley, and apparently a top 10 center in Jakob Poeltl, and apparently this generation, you know, this absolute de facto sixth man type of guy in Davion Mitchell. But on the other hand, you're supposed to miss all those guys and supposed to win basketball games. How? Yeah. How many teams that are currently 7 and 20 do you believe can win without their quote unquote all-star? You know what I mean? So that's
No.
like that's the logical gap. People really do bend logic when it suits their narrative, right?
I will say though, I've grown on Jakob a lot this season, and his importance to this team, like winning wise. Like if we want to win, his importance is there. I'm still on the nay side when it comes to fit long term.
Mm-hmm.
I do see. I don't see him as a detractor, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
It kind of sucks that like I do not mean this in a negative way when I say this, but it kind of sucks that he's here right now because he could be really helping out a team somewhere else. Like if he like you change him and Nurkic right now on the Suns, how much better are the Suns? So much better.
I'm not even sure if that's true.
I think so because the Raptors are a top. What are we? We're a top 10 rebounding team in the league with
Mhm.
Jakob on the court. Okay, tonight he wasn't on the court. The Nets are the worst rebounding team in the league, and they out rebounded us by 20. Right, like just the instant impact is there. And what's the issue with that? A lot of Suns fans have with Nurkic. I mean, some of what Raptors fans have with Poeltl, kind of butterfingers and whatnot. But Nurkic is a non-shooting center that is what 53, 54% from the field. Like God forbid that's Jakob Poeltl. Like I think
You think Nurkic is a non-shooting center?
I mean, he stretches the floor more than Jakob, yes, but are you drawing up a play for him to take a three?
No. But
Right.
he gets out of the way.
I
He's not always in the paint.
hear
He
you.
allows for wider driving angles.
So you think that it would be the same outcome if Jakob was on the Suns instead of Nurkic? Like their season would be the same right now. It wouldn't just instantly add 3 or 4 wins.
So remember how I said like the defensive analytics are crazy and kind of stupid?
Yeah.
Take a look. Okay, so this is Jusuf Nurkic.
How is he that high of a defender?
Again, this model very, very much likes players who get defensive rebounds, and he's one of the best defensive rebounders in the league. And apparently his rim defense is actually pretty decent. Although, again, it's very difficult to isolate defense this way. But if you look at Jakob Poeltl, I'll guarantee you it's less. Okay,
No, it's going to be so much less, but it just doesn't. I guess there's some things where you have to. I mean, yes, analytics is nice because it tells us what your eyes don't see, but sometimes your eyes tells you things that analytics don't take account for. Right. And if you truly know, I'm not saying I'm like a basketball genius, but if you know enough about the game and you watch it, I mean, you can't tell me that Nurkic is more impactful than Jakob Poeltl in any facet. Now, maybe one-on-one in the post defense, I take Nurkic, just bigger body, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Suns with a guy like Poeltl would be having such a better season. Such a better season. I don't know. I feel like there's a few teams that could really use him. I feel the Orlando Magic are almost there too. Like they almost have Goga Bitadze in the Jakob Poeltl role right now, and that's working so well. So imagine if it was Jakob instead.
Right.
Kind of playing the same.
Crafted does not have Jakob Poeltl. Hold on, let me just see here. I'm gonna look at dunks and threes. Hold on. Pull this off. Pull this on. I'm actually curious to see how dunks and threes feels. Defensive EPM is a little bit better of a metric, but I'm curious how Jakob rates out. I have been very, very, very depressed with his defense. So he has a positive 0.6 defensive EPM and a positive 0.6 offensive EPM, which equals plus 1.2. Okay, so now to look at Jusuf Nurkic, who plays admittedly with much better players. He has a positive 2 defensive EPM and a negative 1.2 with a net of plus 0.8. Therefore, the difference between them is in theory 0.04. So 0.4. That's the gap in their EPM. It's not a huge gap by any means. And Nurkic has according to defensive EPM, he has been a better defender.
Yeah.
According to box plus minus, he's been a better defender. So Jakob Poeltl is really washed defensively on this end, because I'll guarantee if you look at Jakob's previous seasons, definitely Jakob Poeltl was better than this, man. I'm inclined to say definitely he was. Hold on, let me see.
How much is it? Do you think he's playing alongside an undersized four? Like Ochai's been great, but pretty much every night he's playing besides alongside an undersized four. Like if you were to take Ochai, put him on the bench, and put Cooper Flagg next to him, how much better would he be?
I mean, in fairness, I understand what you're saying because the Raptors' entire defensive scheme is basically designed to fail when it
Right.
comes to this kind of stuff. At the same time, I could see it as, shouldn't he be able to elevate it a little bit more than he does? I think
You would hope, and it's hard because I mean, when he first got traded here, maybe it was the fact we didn't have a center for like 3 years, but I mean, it was probably like the best defense I've ever seen him play, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
No, absolutely not. I don't think he played great defense with the Raptors, man. I genuinely I mentioned it when he was traded to the Raptors that for 2 years now his at rim percentages have been going down. Now, obviously, the way you're going to measure a center's defensive impact, like the way people love to malign Nikola Jokic for his impact, is they look at how well do players shoot at the paint when you're in the paint. Really, that's the impact of a defensive center, right? Is how well do you deter shots at the rim? What frequency do teams take shots at the rim when you're on the court? And what's the percentage of those shots versus league average? So, for instance, if Immanuel quickly goes into the paint against Victor Wembanyama, his average percentage at the rim is what? And then what does he shoot against Victor Wembanyama? You subtract the number, you get Victor Wembanyama's at rim percentage, and you understand more what the difference is between Victor Wembanyama or the average player going against Victor Wembanyama versus the average center. So the same thing can be done with Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl goes the other way. Opponents shoot significantly more efficiently against him. Significantly. Now, is this partially because he's constantly in foul trouble? Possibly. Is this partially because he's in on the tank? Possibly. Is it partially because he's not trying? Possibly. Is it possible because he's washed and has been regressing for 3 years? Possibly. Is it possible that the Raptors MIG and pressure style system and trying to pick up guys 54 feet, 50, 94 feet is just leading to a lot of breakages and a lot of pressure at the rim, and Jakob is not able to deal with two people constantly coming at him? That's possibly it too. But Scottie is a hell of a good defender. Jonathan Mobo is a really good defender. He's playing with two better defenders than a lot of centers in the league are.
How much do you think maybe the man-to-man defense all the time instead of a zone, which I think a guy in Jakob would thrive in a little bit more? Or how much
zone is not necessarily great for teaching defense, though.
No, it's not at all. No, and I completely understand that. I'm just saying, like on a different team in a different situation, how much more would he thrive? And then on the other hand, how much is that Pat Delaney just being an absolute terrorist on defense?
I don't think I know Pat Delaney well enough to be able to call him a terrorist or know enough about him to be able to say, he is or he isn't. No idea.
I did not like him on the Wizards at all. I always felt like that was the reason why their defense, like, this isn't just like a Toronto Raptors thing, right? Like, this is going back a while. Like, I've always thought he's one of the worst defensive coaches in the league, and I was really hoping that when the Lakers staff was put together under Vogel, they would end up taking him because he was a finalist for it, and they didn't. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, hopefully he doesn't end up on my team then. And lo and behold, he ended up on my team. I've just never liked his defensive philosophy. There's never been a player that's gotten better defensively under him. For the reason of him getting them better, for the reason of him, because he cannot claim that Scottie Barnes is a better defender because he's his coach at all, right? I've never seen a team defense get better with Pat Delaney, and I think when this team seriously is going to think about start winning basketball games, we need to have some either. I'm not saying I want the man out of a job, right? I understand this is deeper than just basketball, but someone else needs to come up with the defensive game plan because it cannot be him. It cannot. I've seen him try to tank teams trying to be competitive before. And
I mean, if he's a terrible defender, defensive coach, I assure you everybody else does as well. And also, I haven't had the most favorable thoughts about him. You'll notice that every time I bring up the Raptors development staff, I always leave him out of it. There's always Darko and Evo and Jama. I'll talk about literally everybody but him. So there's probably a bit of a bias there. Is it because of his face? Is it because of his lack of charisma? Or do I really understand? Is it because of the bias that he comes from the Wizards and I don't trust anything that comes from the Wizards? No idea.
I didn't like how he tanked a team trying to be competitive for so long on defense, and I felt like a lot of the shortcomings on the Wizards were defensively. And I mean, like, who else to blame other than your defensive coordinator?
What about roster construction? Does that not matter at all?
It does, but when the team looks better without, I mean, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Like, he's had chances. And I understand. Like, someone could say, well, he's putting a chokehold right now because this team's just running man defense, and that's all they're going to run at the end of the day. But even when he was on the Wizards, when they run zones, when they run different sets, they run 2-3s, 3-2s, like whatever, it just wasn't effective at all. They were so susceptible to corner threes. It was crazy. I think they had one of the highest rates when he was there his last year there for corner threes in the league. Like, that's
Sure.
what it's going to boil down to. Eventually, when you stop running man-to-man and you stop letting Jakob get bullied in the paint, you stop letting blow-bys happen, right? And you start running more zones when the team gets more experience. That's what's going to happen is we're just going to see, like right now we're shutting down the corner three. Like, I think what are we? Are we bottom 10 in the league in corner three percentage from other teams? We're getting killed on the wing. We're not getting killed in the corner. But just watch. If he is still this team's defensive coordinator, and quote me. If I'm wrong, I will wear a dress for a whole day. I'll go out in public and wear a dress for a whole day if I'm wrong. But when this team,
How would we ever verify this?
I will record. I'll go live for a whole day.
You're the new generation. I would never risk that.
I'll go. That is how willing I am that I am right on this. I'm going to die on this hill.
Okay.
That if he is still our defensive coordinator when this team wants to be competitive,
Mhm.
we will give up top 3% of corner threes in the league that season.
What you're defining is a tank godsend.
It
You
is
understand that, right?
This is Aaron Baines in coach form.
He reminds me of Aaron Baines too.
Like, God looked at the Raptors and said, "Oh, you guys need another superstar in the draft. I got you. Here's Pat Delaney." He couldn't give us Aaron Baines because Aaron Baines almost died. I'm glad he's doing good now. I'm glad he's doing fine.
Did he get the? He did get the Wizards Bilal Coulibaly, didn't he?
I don't think so. Well, okay,
That was the year before, right? So yes, technically he did make the Wizards worse. And it's not like the Wizards have been good since he's been gone. Sometimes it just comes down to defensive personnel, man. I don't see great defenders on this team. So, I mean, I see the potential for a middle of the pack defense, and that's kind of what the Raptors have been approaching towards. But I don't think they're trying to be a good defensive team. Like, again, it's like they're using these games as individual training exercises. I've literally felt this way all year. They're not trying to lose games. But if you go into an average NBA game and you're not trying to explicitly win the game, like if you're like, okay, we got to leave Grady on Cam Johnson because it's good for his development, then you're not really trying to win the game, are you? We got to let Scottie take above the break threes from 32 feet. You're not trying to win the game. You're not serious. You're not serious about basketball. No team that's serious about basketball is letting Scottie Barnes take 32-foot three-pointers, with the game close. It's just not happening. Now, is it good for development? Sure. Could you take those reps in the offseason during a pro-am? You could. But this is the best way to define it. It's the best way to cover it. I hope nobody in the Toronto media is writing like, oh, this is disgusting basketball or whatever, because I certainly don't want the Raptors to have to suffer any sort of like negative PR for what they're doing right now. I genuinely think they're doing the right thing. I would never support it if they were doing the wrong thing, but I do think they're doing the right thing.
No, 100%. I 100% agree with you. Just one more thing on the Pat Delaney hate train before we're done for the night. Do you remember every time we would play the Orlando Magic back in 2018, 2019, it felt like Danny Green had a career night? Yeah.
Pat Delaney, their defensive coordinator?
Yes. That is my fear.
Well, I have always maintained that I think Darko Rajakovic is going to need a lot of experience on his bench when we are ready to compete. And once we are ready to compete, you'll see the dollars and cents flow into the coaching staff when they're ready to move away from this, develop everybody to, hey, we got to start winning now. And the time starts now. You know what I mean? Like, I know I think the PR campaign this summer was like the future starts now. And then everyone came out and kind of said the same stuff. And I've always maintained that the one guy that I really pay attention to in post-game scrums and pre-game and preseason, it's actually Jakob Poeltl. That's the one guy that I genuinely really like to pay attention to because he does not lie.
No, he told the truth. He came out and said, if you expect us to be competitive this season, he pretty much said, if you expect us to be competitive, you're watching the wrong team. We're not going to risk development for the sake of wins.
He said it doesn't make sense for us to try to go out and win every single game. Right.
And I
appreciate that too. I appreciate that a lot.
The ultimate pro. I mean, I'm not saying don't sit here and think I'm saying that Jakob Poeltl's a top 80, 85 player in this league. I'm not. But this is a guy probably in the back end of his prime right now that had X amount of years to win a championship, and he's stuck here, and he's being an absolute champ about it. He could go be a 6th or 7th best player on a championship team somewhere this year right now. And instead he's not. I mean, he's not demanding to be out. His body language isn't bad. If you watched him tonight on the bench, he was always talking to somebody. He was always cheering people up. He doesn't have to do that. He just got paid.
He's being paid very, very, very well.
And he is
to be a professional about this, right? So
not bringing drama to the situation. Because
who do you think he is? He's not Shaquille O'Neal in his prime. He's not he's a role player.
I hear you. I'm just thinking other role players like him. Okay.
Who? Name another role player of his standing. And I'm not trying to be rude about Jakob Poeltl. Understand what I'm saying, though. This is a player who is, per my estimation, not a top 20 player at his position. And if he is barely top 20 at his position. So what is it exactly that you believe that he should be aspiring towards, or, that he could be doing hypothetically?
I'm not saying he deserves it. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he can be or is. I'm just saying I appreciate that he's leaving the drama out of this, and he's not secretly behind the scenes like Goran. I have higher aspirations, right? Type of thing.
So funny enough, Goran was very, very supportive.
No, he was
the younger team. It was just a really bad translation.
He
right?
was extremely bought in. Not only was it a bad translation, they put the wrong context and the wrong tone on what he was talking about.
Right.
But Toronto media,
it has not stopped Toronto from hating him.
No.
I will never hate Goran Dragic. I know a lot about Goran Dragic behind the scenes and who he was for the Raptors, who he was while he was here, what his relationship was like with Masai Ujiri, with Scottie Barnes, with everything. He was great. Scottie, to this day, has always stood up for Goran. Every single time there is any Goran slander, he's always nah, Goran's my guy, because he is. Yes, and Scottie's not a fake dude. He's always going to keep it 100% about that stuff.
I feel for Goran because I feel like he pumped so many. No matter what, I get it's a business, but there is a human side to this too. He pumped the best years of his career in Miami. He made his home in Miami, and then they just traded him for a guy who didn't work out. And it's could Goran have done the same things in Miami these last few years like Kyle did? Maybe.
I think it's a calculated gamble. Just because it doesn't work out doesn't mean it wasn't a gamble worth taking. Kyle was a better player at the time than Goran Dragic. Was he better enough to part with Precious Achiuwa? Sure he was. Precious Achiuwa wasn't they clearly took a look at Precious Achiuwa and did not see a star. So they're okay, we can definitely move off of this.
I'm just saying I just lost that bias in players like that, players like Boucher, players like Gillespie and Kem Birch, right? And he's moved towards more of the Mobo, Shead, Jacoby Walter battle type of guys. Because if this draft class was back in 2019, 2020, we would have not have drafted Jacoby Walter. We would have not drafted Grady Dick. Something has fundamentally changed in his mind to make of how he thinks about certain different type of players. Because you got to think, back in 2019, 2020, Jacoby Walter and Grady Dick were not guys that you would look at and be like, damn, that could potentially be a Toronto Raptor. They just weren't. And it's changed. And it's changed for the better. If a lot of the criticism of GMs across sports like every single sports league, is that they do not look in the mirror, and they are going to keep trying to shove a circle through a square until it. And Masai is the one guy who will sit there and reevaluate and change his stance. Now, sometimes he goes too far. Like I think he's
changing who you're building around, so obviously everything has to change, right?
Right. And sometimes I think he's gone too far, though. Like I think he's a little bit too loyal to players now because he saw the backlash of DeRozan and how that worked out. And he does not want that to happen again. But yeah, sure, true. But they weren't. They thought, and I'm not saying I thought this right or this is right, but they thought that Pascal Siakam was going to be a top 10 player in this league, top 10 to 15 player in this league, right?
Sure.
They tried to build around him a different way than now they're trying to build around Scottie Barnes, who now they think as soon as next year can be a top 10 to 15 player in this league. And some would argue right now he already is, right?
I don't think that's it. I think it was more or less a combination of A, their own evolution as a front office, what they believe and don't believe. B, building around an experienced, somewhat diminished offensive core like Fred and Pascal was always going to come down to how good you could be defensively. And then, of course, it was also the context of the league. Like, where's the league going? The league is moving towards offense. No debate about it, right? The best teams can score 135, 140 points on any given night. You can create a defensive unit that's competitive defensively, but you will always lose to a great offensive team. You know, and offense has worked. It's worked 3 years in a row. Nuggets, Celtics, Bucks, like shit. I understand that these teams are also competitive defensively, but if you look at the last 5 years since the Raptors won the championship, the teams that have been winning largely due to their offense. Even last year, if you look at the Dallas Mavericks, who were competitive and competent defensively, but they featured multiple defensive liabilities in their core rotation, including their superstar, and they made the finals. And they beat some pretty good defensive teams along the way. You know, like one of the greatest defensive teams. You were hearing, the Minnesota Timberwolves are one of the greatest defensive teams ever. So you're seeing even a team that has gone all in on defense go for offense this offseason in New York, right? They opt for Collin Towns. They changed their philosophy, and they're just like, nope, this 1-5 pick and roll with Collin Towns and Jalen Brunson unlocks everything for us, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think teams maybe lean in too heavily on the defensive archetype. Where it's still valuable. The Dyson Daniels of the world are still worth multiple firsts and whatever. But when you have like a true superstar, like I think Cam Johnson is the best of all worlds because he's a really good defender, but he's an awesome offensive player. I think that's what you need. You just can't have you can't be just exclusively piling up Precious Achiuwas and OG Anunoby's praying for a miracle anymore. So I do think that as much as I wanted to think that Grady Dick was such a break from the archetype because it caught me off guard, I'm realizing that was largely just because I misunderstood Grady as a prospect. Because technically, if you think about it, Grady matches up with everything they look for.
Oh, for sure.
Positional size. They like big playmakers. He's a big playmaker. They like size to skill ratio. They like hard workers. They like guys who come from winning programs. They like guys who have good high school pedigree. He has everything. The only thing he doesn't have, they like guys with plus wingspan. He has a plus wingspan. They like guys who are athletic. He's technically athletic. Is he Pascal Siakam athletic? It's not the same, but he's very sneaky athletic.
Yeah, he is. And I wonder what most people missed on Grady was the fact he was just white. Genuinely.
That's what I missed. I genuinely did not expect the Raptors to pick a white dude. Like the last time they did it was Jakob Poeltl. In the draft? When's the last time you've seen Masai Ujiri pick a white guy in the draft? It was literally Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah,
and he wasn't even like a white North American. He was an Austrian European.
Yeah.
So it's like he's just been going after these African prospects, North American, black prospects, and then just Grady Dick just kind of stuck out as like that's definitely something that Indiana would do. Sometimes people don't realize, but players are fit to market as well, right? People often wonder like why Toronto picks so many international players. You looked at Toronto's demographics,
right?
Looked at the fans,
right?
It matters, right? And sometimes people would wonder why a team like didn't build around international players in the past. Have you looked at the demographics, right, of North American cities? You're not, like, I'm just going to say this right here. No offense to Cleveland, no offense to Ohio. You're not building a team. Let me pick one. You're not building a team around Bilal Coulibaly in Ohio.
Nah.
That's going to be a hard pill. Let me make it even harder, though. You're definitely not building a team around Nikola Topic in Ohio. Shit ain't working, right? So it's like the more foreign you get, the more white you get, the further you get removed from the idea of it, right? Because again, it does come down to Chris Webber will always be more marketable than Peja Stojakovic. Now, the 1 year Peja Stojakovic played without Chris Webber, he finished top 4 in MVP voting. My ex-girlfriend was cousins with Peja Stojakovic and watched him play live many times. And, you know, that dude was a baller. He was amazing. But no team was building their shit around Peja Stojakovic. So people will always see him as a complimentary guy. They don't realize how much wiggle he had in his game, how much primacy he could handle in his game. I'm not even presenting him like he's Kobe or something, but let me give you context. Would you believe me if I told you in 2003, 2004, that Peja Stojakovic had a higher value of a replacement than Kobe Bryant? He had more win shares than Kobe Bryant. He scored 24 points per game. He was on a 55-win team. And make matters even better, he actually finished ahead of Kobe in MVP voting. He was 4th. Kobe was 5th.
Yeah.
Isn't that shocking? That's Kobe's prime.
And that's what almost scares me, because I'm not saying the NBA draft is rigged, but I think certain players are pushed certain places. Wemby was pushed to San Antonio.
Tough. Yeah.
Wemby pushed to San Antonio, right? That's what scares me about Cooper Flagg. If the Raptors are bad enough, which I hope we are at this point, and I think we will be, to guarantee ourselves a top 5 pick, I think
first of all, you can't guarantee yourself a top 5 pick
unless
you are literally the worst team in the league. That's the only way to guarantee yourself a top 5 pick. No. Last 2 years, Portland. The Blazers. What am I saying? Wow, why do I keep saying Portland? The Blazers, because they're on my mind because they just beat the Nuggets.
I thought Detroit,
the Pistons were the worst team in the league 2 years in a row, right?
They got the 5th pick.
They got the 5th pick both times. That is how you guarantee a top 5 pick. However, if the Pistons were the second worst team and they slipped 5 spots, which is exactly the same situation, they would have picked 6th. So you can slide up to that much. Every team is capable of sliding by 4.
Got you. Okay, makes sense.
So
Perfect.
It's perfectly possible, although unlikely. Okay, let me try to explain the math on this. The lower you are, the more unlikely it is that you'll slide 4 spots.
Yeah, and
by the math. However, it is perfectly possible, and this is the scary scenario because this happened in 2K25 once. It's perfectly possible to be like the 6th team in the draft, thinking you're going to possibly jump into the top 5 and end up 10th. Perfectly possible.
And that's what scares me about Cooper. Just makes so much sense to Utah because he fits there, like marketability wise. He just
There's
fits.
A player who makes even more sense in Utah, and that's AJ Debonsa. He's a hometown, that's
he
not
will
just
be.
hometown, but like
he will be, yeah.
But Utah's not a big market. Utah's a shit market. Why would you give Cooper Flagg to Utah when Utah is literally like one of the smallest markets in the NBA?
It has so much untapped potential, though. I feel
potential.
Like if you can field a success, a top 3 team in the league year in and year out, like they did in the Stockton Malone days, the people are gonna come. I just think it makes, like, if Miami was really bad, I think he'd make a lot of sense in Miami too.
Miami makes more sense.
Miami makes a lot more sense. I don't think he fits in Washington. I don't think he fits.
Here you go.
But
this is 2022. This is the Raptors.
Yep.
That is the only team currently that's bad. So try to make a case that Cooper Flagg does not fit into Canada.
No, I think he does. I just think that
he's from Maine. Number 1, he's from Maine.
Yep.
Number 2, he is basically a hockey player.
Super close.
No matter how you slice it, he is basically a hockey player on the basketball court. His motor, his intensity, his toughness, his scrappiness, his personality is all very hockey. I don't even follow hockey that much, but trust me, he reminds me of every hockey player I've ever met. So that in and of itself means, why wouldn't you put your big star A, on a great development team, B, in a big market, C, in the only international market that you have, especially since Adam Silver tends to be a lot more progressive about international expansion. I mean, look, man, I spent my whole life listening to the NBA will never let the Raptors win a championship. They'll never let the Raptors get to the finals. It'll always be rigged. It'll always be rigged. And then what happened? Down 0-2 to the Bucks. It's rigged. It's rigged. And then boom, finals. Right? So look,
Could it be the same reason that they didn't let Zion go to New York instead of he went to the Pelicans instead? I mean,
didn't let him go to New York.
Well, like I said, I don't want to sit here and accuse it of being rigged, but let's not act like they couldn't rig it if they didn't want to, right? Like
allegedly they can't, because there's a representative from literally every single team that is there when they draw the lottery balls. Every team has a representative. So this process is remarkably transparent. So in order for this to happen, you would have to get every single team in the league to be like, you know what? We all sign off on it. Danny Ainge, here you go. Here's the number one pick. Give us all a second at some point. You know, you would have to have such a wide conspiracy among those 13, 14 14 team representatives who are in that room. Again, because the NBA was booked for what they did with Patrick Ewing in 85, they have been on red alert with this. Now, I know that people like to think they rigged it for LeBron. They rigged it, you know, for Derrick Rose, because, you know, those two guys ended up in their hometown. But like those teams were really bad. I mean, the Bulls climbed up 9 spots, so I think it felt a little bit more rigged. But the Cleveland Cavaliers were horrible that year. They tanked to get him. So the fact that they got him was not necessarily that surprising. Also, the NBA has done everything to actually weight the odds away from tanking. So now, last year, help me understand Zachary Ricochet in Atlanta. What sense did that make? Wouldn't it have made so much more sense to give the Spurs, like, you're pushing Victor Wembanyama down everyone's throats. Pause. Okay, you're trying to get everybody to buy into this guy. Wouldn't it make sense to give the frigging international powerhouse, the French guy, Zachary Ricochet or Alex Sarr, create the Twin Towers? I mean, it just made so much sense to give the Spurs the first overall pick, right? Given that they were right there. It's not like you would have had to stretch it. You wouldn't, you know what I mean? There's so many times where you think to yourself, the league could have rigged it and put it somewhere else. Zion to New Orleans. Why? Why New Orleans for Zion? Literally, there could have been 100 other places where you could have sent him. Why New Orleans? It's a very small market.
Speaking of Zion, I saw the funniest freaking post today. It was like, why is the NBA failing? And someone's like, because their superstar of the 2010s is just a porn addict that gets strippers pregnant. And I was like, damn, that's kind of sad.
Did he get a stripper pregnant? Or is that just hearsay?
No, he did. Or she's an OnlyFans model, but
wasn't it Mariah Mills?
I mean, is she like an actual, like, you get what I'm trying to say, or is she like a OnlyFans?
No, she's a legit porn star.
Okay, I didn't know if I could say that.
If it is Mariah, that is a legit porn. Okay. That is a legit star.
That was the point. It's like the face of the 2020s, instead of being on the court all the time, is just a loser that gets porn stars pregnant. And I was like, damn, it's kind of sad. Do you not remember the media they were like just the media pushing, the marketing pushing they were doing before the 2020 season?
Okay, take a look at this. This right here is the smallest market in the NBA, the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, TV market 620K. Who do they have? Ja. The New Orleans Pelicans, barely bigger. Who did they get? They got Zion. The Oklahoma City Thunder, what do they have? They have a perennial powerhouse, and they got Chet Holmgren. The Milwaukee Bucks, what do they get? They got Giannis. They got Dame. San Antonio Spurs. Do you not see the trend here? They're literally propping up all their small market teams. You know, LaMelo was a household name. Dame wasn't necessarily, but
if you're a tall white guy in Utah, it makes too much sense if you're trying to prop it up.
It doesn't make any more sense in Utah than it does
Oh, no,
in Chicago.
See that? I see that. Do they see it though?
Well, how regressive do you think they are? That they be like, "Oh, white guy, you go to Utah." Like this is not the Sorting Hat in Harry Potter, where it's like, "Oh, you're a slimy bitch. Let me put you through to Slytherin."
I agree with you, but do they, right? Like there's I don't know. After Wemby, I'm not saying like the Raptors should have, or we should have even been close to Sweep Six. I think we had like the 12th, 13th best odds. So it's not that. It's the fact that out of all places, San Antonio climbed and got the number 1 pick, and there was a reason why they climbed and got that number 1 pick.
What do you mean they climbed?
Didn't they go from a 4-1?
I actually don't remember now. Now that I think about it,
from 4-1.
2023 NBA lottery. Let me just check. I don't even think so. Lottery odds. It was third. They had the third best odds. And also, it's worth noting that since teams 1, 2, and 3 have identical odds, they actually had the same odds as the other two teams.
Yeah, true.
So Detroit, Houston, San Antonio all had 14% odds. Charlotte Hornets had 12.5% odds.
True.
So that year, the Pistons slipped down to 5. The Spurs that year went up to number 1. Houston went to 3. Charlotte went to 6. If I'm not mistaken, Portland, who had 10.5% odds, moved up to number 3. Charlotte moved up to number 2. My bad. So Charlotte moved up to 2. Okay, so Houston went down to 4. They got Amen Thompson at 4. Orlando moved down to 6.
They got Black.
Yeah. Washington was at 7, although Washington was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Washington actually moved moved up a spot.
Yeah.
How the fuck did Washington move up a spot? That means right. They traded with Indiana. My bad. So Washington traded with Indiana. That's how they moved up a spot. My bad. That's how they did that. So yes, I mean, you just saw a massive shuffle there. I'm trying to think like who drafted 5th in 2023. Hold on, my memory sucks here. So Wemby went number 1. Brandon Miller went number 2 to Charlotte. Scoot went number 3. Number 4. Okay, number 5 was Detroit, right? Detroit was Asar Thompson. So the Amen and Asar went back to back, which is what I often forget. And that is when Anthony Black went number 6 to Orlando. Number 7 was Bilal. Number 8 was Jarris. Number 9 was... Who the fuck was number 9?
Why do I think that was the Jazz's pick that year?
NBA draft. No. Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah. So it was the Jazz pick.
Yeah, number 9. So number 9, Jazz, Taylor Hendricks, although he was cooking before he got injured this year. And then number 10 was who? Number 10 was...
It was someone who picked Grady and didn't pick Grady. So it was.
Kaysen.
Oh, never mind.
I think it was Kaysen Wallace traded to the Thunder. Number 11 was Jet Howard. Number 12 was Derek Lively. Number 13 was Grady Dick. Number 14 was Jordan Hawkins. Number 15 was Kobe Buffkin. Number 16 was who?
Thank God we didn't trade Siakam for Buffkin. Holy crap.
That would have been bad. 16 was Kobe Buffkin. No, wait. 16 was Keontae George. 17 was Jalen Hood Schifino. 18, Jaime Jaquez. 19, Brandon Pajimski. 20, Cam Whitmore. 21, Noah Clowney.
22 was J-Dub, wasn't it? No. He was 21. He was 21.
No, 22 was Dariq Whitehead. Whitehead. Yeah.
I mean, like he was 2021, not 20. Yeah. Jeez. It's crazy to think about how, like, just at the time, everyone was so after, like, Kobe Buffkin. Like, trade Siakam for Buffkin. Oh, my God. Thank God that didn't happen. But I don't know if the return we got's any better. But time will tell.
Yeah. Anyways, man, it's been a lively conversation. Always good chat with you. I'm gonna head to probably to sleep at some point. This was a crazy night in the NBA, including a loss for the Raptors, a win for the Blazers, a win for the Jazz. What the hell? Who could have seen this coming?
So technically, it was the Raptors.
Hmm?
Some would say it is a win for the Raptors. Then
it was a huge win for the Raptors.
Huge, absolutely huge.
Dude, like I'm gonna say huge, like Donald Trump says huge. Huge. It was a huge win for the
Gotta do
Raptors.
Gotta do the hand motion. Gotta have like he has like the yep. There you
Is
go.
that it?
Yep.
Huge. Is that it? Oh
That's
God.
there, baby.
I will not convert my Puma hat for a MAGA hat, but yeah, no, it was an absolutely massive night. Again, people are, in my opinion, very bad at seeing small things leading to big things.
Mhm.
You know, like I am actually pretty good at this. When I was younger, when I was a kid, when I was like 7, 8 years old, I used to have this blue piggy bank, and I would just pile up every dime I could see on the street. I used to go to the mall, and my mom was like shopping or whatever. I'd be like, can I just walk and open doors for people? And I would just literally open doors for people. And sometimes someone would just be like, oh, here's $1, thank you for this, whatever. I never expected it. There were small things like that. Family friends would give like $20 here, $50 here for your birthday, and I would just keep putting it, stuffing it in my piggy bank. And I would always look at this blue thing and know that one day I'm going to open this thing and put it all in the bank. And one day I opened it, and it was like $412. And I was 9 years old. And I just stacked quarter on quarter, anytime. Literally, my mom used to have this deal where if I would go get the bread, if I would go to the local corner store and get the bread, I can keep the change. She would always try to give me as close to the change as possible. So if the bread was going to cost $3, she would try to get $3.60. She would try to give me $4, but that 40 cents was mine for doing it. So I would take that 40 cents, put it in the piggy bank. But I always saw it stacking up into something big, right? What people don't realize is that at the end of the year, when you're like 2 wins behind or two wins ahead of the Utah Jazz, this night right here is what it will come down to. The night they won and the night you lost was where you gained one full. The night you lose and the night they lose, nothing moves. It's only on the night that you lose and they win that you get the full one. On the night that you just win and they don't play, it's a negative plus 0.5. Sorry, a negative 0.5. So yeah, understanding the longer term perspective on this is like just like anything else in life. Like you stack these losses one at a time. If you manage, like if the Raptors manage to lose every game from here on out, not saying they can, they won't. I know that there's going to be plenty of wins this year. However, if they manage to lose every single game, they guarantee themselves a top 5 pick. That's the math.
Yeah.
Right. They guarantee themselves a top 5 pick. They guarantee themselves a 14 plus 14 plus 14 is 42. 42% chance. A 42% chance at a top 3 pick, I believe. If I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right.
No, I'm not even sure that I am. It would be okay. So with the top 4, it would be a 52.1% chance at a top 4 pick if you were the worst team in the league. Versus if you were the 5th, it goes down to 42. That's the interesting thing to study here, is that the odds need to be evaluated in full context. Yeah. I don't know how you are with math, but like, yeah. Anyways, man, any final thoughts?
No, keep it rolling. Just keep it competitive. Keep it competitive. I don't want to see 30-point blowouts. I'm not going to complain about a 10-point loss, but just keep it competitive, keep it building, keep playing the young guys. Give Battle more than 13 minutes a night, and I'll be happy.
Okay, and then hopefully at some point convert his contract to a full contract.
Please.
All right, man. Peace.
Please.
They'll definitely do it. They love him.
Oh, I hope so. So. Yeah, man.
All right, peace. Okay. All right. Okay. So 2 things. We will figure out the draft odds, and we're also going to take a listen to Darko Rajakovic.
Darko, 18 points in the 4th quarter. What do you think happened to your offense in this draft?
I think it's 18 points on defensive end and are also 31 points on defensive end. They scored a lot in that quarter there. We had a lead going into the 4th quarter. we knew that we needed to get stops. We knew that we needed to keep them off the free throw line, and we did not do a good enough job of closing out to hot shooters. We did not do a good enough job of keeping them on the free throw line, and then offensively, we missed some open shots, but we also get stagnant there towards the end of the game, and we were chasing some isolations instead of playing to our style, like of ball movement and cutting and moving, and a lot of learning from this game, especially for our young guys to learn how to close the game.
You've talked, especially early in the season, about the pace and the half-court offense, and that seemed to disappear late in the game. Is there a tendency late in a game to slow things down when it's a close game? And obviously it sounds like you want them to get away from that.
Yeah, for us, I want to have pace during the full 48 minutes. In NBA, it's just natural that end of the game, last 5-6 minutes of the game slows down. There is more execution. There is more allowed physicality on defensive end. Teams are much more alert, so it's not as easy to keep that same pace. We're trying to, but it's not easy always to have that tendency at the end of the game. So execution needs to be really high level. The angles of screen, how you're rolling, where is the positioning, taking care of the ball. You know, we had a stretch in the fourth quarter that we turned the ball over like 2 or 3 times straight, and that just you cannot allow that in the fourth quarter.
Finishing around the rim has been an issue lately. Scottie talked about it in practice the other day. You guys didn't shoot well in the paint tonight against a team that isn't a great shot blocking team. How much of an emphasis has that been for you guys, and what do you need to do to fix it?
It's a big emphasis. You know, it's obviously, especially for young guys, it's quite a big difference of speed and size that they're facing at the rim. So it's just learning what it takes, what kind of pace and force you need to have to get to the rim, and then what kind of angles you need to have to finish at the rim. You know, a lot of times we're going to go and try to finish with underhand shots when we actually need more hook shots or some floaters. And there is a fine balance while you touching the paint and being aggressive, recognizing situations where defense is collapsing and find open man. You know, our emphasis today was to get more threes. We were able to get more threes, and that's positive, but we still need to continue being better attacking the rim and finishing at the rim.
Nick Claxton got ejected. I'm wondering sort of what was your view of that whole situation in the aftermath?
I really did not see the play there, what happened. I just saw he got ejected, so no comment on that.
Sometimes in these late game situations, it's just give the ball to the best player and let him score. Scottie is your guy in those situations. How do you want him to balance that isolation that sounds like you don't love versus playing how you love Scottie Barnes?
To find a balance, exactly. Like you're right on the point with that, because there has to be moments that your star player gets the ball and he has the ball in his hands, and he decides how to attack, who's the matchup, but also at the same time teammates need to help him. My problem today was we were not active off the ball when he was going into some of those isolations. We still need to have cuts. We still need to have some windows opportunities for other guys to find open shots there, and we were just stagnant. We were standing and watching him play.
One of the things that Jamal does so well is drawing, moving screens, offensive fouls. I think he took 3 of them today. What is it that allows him to really excel at that?
He has such a high energy, and he's so competitive. He's fighting through a lot of screens. A lot of those screens are borderline illegal screens, and he just finds a way to compete on the ball, and he's really improving of the ball as well. So that's the main thing, just like his tenacity to pursue on those screens.
How much was it Jakob Poeltl's presence missed tonight? You saw it on the glass, and even just in those half-break situations down late. How much could you have used him out there in this one?
I mean, that's obvious one, but we did not have Yak, and we're not going to talk about Yak. It's not fair to the other guys or him to comment on that.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
What a strange post game. Of course, it's fair to comment. I respect his desire philosophically to not comment on, hey, we lost this game because Jakob Poeltl didn't play. But look, I think to the people who have accustomize their eyes to it's Kawhi Leonard is the only way to win basketball games. Nikola Jokic had 34 points tonight against the Portland Trailblazers, and his team lost. They shot 54% from the field and 44% from three and had 0 turnovers and lost. Can I show you this game? Yeah, I can show you this game. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to show you this. Give me 1 sec here. This is reality in the NBA. Okay. You had a game. I can't even believe that they had 0 turnovers. That makes no sense. Is that fair? They had 0. What? That's a typo. That has to be a typo. That's impossible. Can't have a 0 turnover. No, this is a mistake. They had 11 turnovers. I apologize. But they did shoot 44% from three. They did shoot 54% from the field. They did shoot 72% from the line. They got to the line 21 times. You lost to a team that shot way worse than you. How do you lose? How do you lose this game? And you lose it at the buzzer, and your star player plays like a star. 34 points, 8 assists, but maybe 6 rebounds isn't enough to control the glass. Maybe it's not enough, right? And you look at it and you're like, okay, Jamal Murray, is that a better player than Grady Dick? Of course it is. Michael Porter Jr., is that a better player than Jacoby Walter and Jonathan Mobo? Sure. Aaron Gordon, is that a better player? Sure. You know, are the Portland Trailblazers necessarily much better right now as a team than the Brooklyn Nets? Not really. Not really. They're not that much better. They're a young team that doesn't, really not necessarily even know how to win basketball games right now. But when you look at the grand context of things, it takes more than one player to win a basketball game. Certainly, I don't think anyone in Denver right now is saying Nikola Jokic is not a real star because we lost to the Portland Trailblazers, right, on the road. But there are plenty of people who are going to take the next 24 hours or 48 hours to victory lap and say that Scottie Barnes is not a real star because you couldn't beat the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think that you win games like this with one player. I don't think Kawhi Leonard, right, tonight might have swung the balance. A healthy Kawhi Leonard in place of a Scottie Barnes might have swung the balance. But I don't think an average star, like I don't think a Pascal Siakam was moving the needle for you. I don't think a Tyrese Halliburton or a Jalen Brunson themselves alone could have just won you this game. There is this totality of superstardom, right? There's plenty of really, really good players. I mean, Giannis was playing like a star when the Bucks started out super bad, right? But the role players weren't firing. So I think what Darko said made a lot of sense. When Scottie's cooking, does the team move around him properly? So I think that that's a really important part to really hone in on. Okay, now to the Tankathon odds. I just want to show you all this because I think that it's important for us to realize that the math on tanking is crucial in the modern NBA when everything has been sort of flattened and tanking has been quote unquote de-incentivized to understand what does it mean. Now, the Portland Trailblazers win a game tonight. Hang on. Does this mean they're a 9-win team? Yes. There we go. So now the numbers have been refreshed. Charlotte lost tonight. So the team that you are trying to stay away from, they continue to lose. And LaMelo Ball took 18 threes, and they are 1-9 in their last 10. You are 3-7. Had you also been 1-9, you would be out tanking the Utah Jazz, and you'd be right in line with the New Orleans Pelicans. That's the gap. And I guarantee you at the end of the year, when we look at 5 through 1, there's going to be a separation of like 6 games. And those are going to be 6 games that you are going to be like, was this worth Cooper Flagg? Was this worth Dylan Harper? Was this worth a top 5 pick guaranteed? And I don't think at that point you're going to be all too happy with the wins that you're rooting for right now. So if you're a Raptor fan, I want you to think long and hard before you start, shitting on this team for not winning basketball games, or start shitting on Darko for his defense, or Pat Delaney, or whoever the hell you want to blame for your momentary losses. To consider the math on this, and it is very important. The top 3 all have the same odds. 52.1% of the number 1 overall, top 4 pick. They all have identical odds of 14% in terms of number 1. So if you think of this draft as the Cooper Flagg draft, Utah, New Orleans, and Washington have 14% chance each at Cooper Flagg right now. Now, when the odds were LeBron James back then, the number one team had 25% chance. That was a huge incentive to really bottom out. The league wanted to get away from that, and so they wanted to move towards this. And this works not so well for the bottom feeder, as we saw with Detroit last 2 years, as we saw for my 2K Toronto Raptors when I bottomed out and ended up with the 5th pick 2-3 times in a row. But it does work very, very well for a team right around here. This range right here. All the odds from here, from the top 3 in the previous iteration, I believe it was 25%, 18%, 13%, something like that, 25, 18, 15, something like that for the top 3. Those percentage points have been subtracted from the top 3 and redistributed mainly, not at the bottom, not here, not here, not here, not here, not here, but mainly those odds have been redistributed from 9 through 4. Those are the teams that have benefited the most, in my opinion. Actually, 11 through 4 have been the teams that have benefited the most from the NBA changing their odds for the lottery. So now the Toronto Raptors are 4th. They will probably, in my estimation, finish the year 6th or 7th from the bottom. That's unless they pull the plug completely and, start resting Scottie and stuff like that. So again, Philadelphia goes the other way. Detroit goes the other way. Brooklyn starts to tank. Chicago will probably, they've won 3 straight. They're the hottest team in this group. San Antonio just won tonight against Atlanta. So they're moving away from the tank and moving more into the play-in tournament. It's also worth noting that the team that makes the play-in, so for instance, let's say the San Antonio Spurs, right now they're in the play-in, right? Are they in the play-in? No, they're not in the play-in. Golden State is in the play-in. Chicago is in the play-in. Okay, so the point is, if you make the play-in and you advance in the play-in, you make the playoffs, you lose your lottery pick. That's also worth noting too. So if the Raptors do end up in the play-in tournament and they end up making the playoffs, well then congratulations, you have a first round date with destiny with either the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you lose your lottery pick and you will end up with the 15th pick. Right now, the 15th pick belongs to Indiana, who have won 3 straight and currently just beat the very decent Phoenix Suns on the road. Ironically, Phoenix, because of this sustained period of losing without Kevin Durant, just got bumped by Indiana. So this is a crazy, crazy league. But really, at the bottom, once you remove Philadelphia, you will basically swap Philadelphia and Brooklyn as bottom feeders. There's 7 bottom feeders in the league. If you're the Toronto Raptors, your goal is to not be the 7th. Try to be 6. See if you can be 5. But if you end up 7th, I don't really like how that looks. But let's try a lottery sim just for good luck. Now let's see where the Raptors end up. Oh, what do you know? They end up with the 1st pick. Let's leave it there. That's a great note to end the night on. Joshua Avery saying Kasparas Jakuchonis is moving up the draft boards fast, as he should be. He's a very good young player. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. 3+ hour live for a blowout, for a loss against the Brooklyn Nets. Wow. Eric Clute is saying it's written in the stars, boys. Let us pray. All right, talk to y'all later. Have a great one. I had David C. is the hype around Cooper not because he's a white American. I think that's part of the hype, from the media at least. That's definitely not the reason I'm hyping him, though. Even Garnett had Paul Pierce, a straight-up bucket getter on the team. Who's our bucket getter, Penn? Scottie Barnes. I think he'll get there, man. I really do. I know people don't see it. And to our lone super chat of the night, thank you, Noble Venom. Some people are sleeping on Fly because he has a skill set that people don't associate with stars. Same reasons people sleep on Scottie's upside. 100% agree with that. All right. Talk to y'all later. Have a great night. Enjoy yourself.